Karandan, you've been wading through this fetid battlefield of bloated, lip-peeled corpses. There's a glare to like a black sun flaring off somewhere behind that makes shadows from your gate flicker over the dead men. Occasional glints off the blood and grime-smeared armor reflects in your face and shows one of worried look. You search and search, and eventually the expression relaxes, and you spy one last glade of Serg flowers growing. And their Orbe, not as you remember her, but as you know her, is there moving amongst them, picking at the choicest of them. And you like slump, your shoulders relaxed for the fear that had gnawed at you. And though you look to your left and right and see wolves prowling about the corpses, tearing at opened bellies or morsels of eyes, you know you're strong enough to keep them at bay. They're just wolves, and they do not come close as you walk towards the Serg glade. It's a face of joy from Orbe as she looks up to meet eyes with you, though it quickly peels away, as if by some gale. And she looks through you, beyond your shoulder, forcing you to turn. You see an army, innumerable, insectoid in number, peel across the hills and move slowly down with the undeniability of a tide coming in. The land grows dark as they come near, and all other sound is drunk up by their great din. These warriors of the east, garbed in stone, unbreakable, with long spears that gut horses and rend tribesmen into the dirt. And though you urge and though you scream and though you command and give like incensed word to these dead, they do not heed you. They're easily ridden over and trampled by the men who loom about you, and the great tide of steel hits into you. The horse underneath you on the trail with your siblings in the night, it stumbles, throwing off its gait momentarily before it rights itself, and the jolt's enough to awake you from the fuggy half-dream. Looking back, you see the forlorn train of horses tied one to another, bearing 1, 2, sometimes 3 slaves, moaning and wailing women, sobbing children, a desolate silhouette through the gloom light sometime before dawn. You're not sure how long you'd slumbered. You'd been in the saddle. You can feel that much. Your pelvis and buttocks and legs ache now with the days of riding, intermittent with fighting that's preceded now. Looking before you, you can see your brothers and sister in quiet conversation as their horses plod the path with like a fast walk, heading off east, you assume. Perhaps it's the similar surroundings to those you'd taken when you chased after the Zamogedi, but in your exhaustion and haze, you don't know or maybe care for now that immediate sensation of safety that the proximity of your siblings bring, enough to see your nerves settle and make you forget most, all but the feeling of the brief dream. There's a sob behind you, which causes you to turn over to your left shoulder this time, where the Shao slave you'd taken in lieu of a Zamogedi wife has awoken, her horse not being able to find the same stone that had caused your own to stumble. And for a brief moment, she looks like a pond, like through a pond of eyes, wet and sad, towards you, and then away in fear at your harsh visage.
Exhausted, his face stony, Kadan reaches down and pulls out his bladder of arak, and first, before he takes a swig himself, he sprinkles an offering to the All-Father on the mane and shoulders of his mare, and then takes a swig, and after relieving his first bit of exhaustion, he just runs his hand over the muscles of of his mount, the buck, as he calls it, because he has a tendency to throw him whenever Khadan slides to one side or another, and he thinks he can get away with it. But Khadan is used to his tricks by now, and they've gone into a bit of a stalemate, not knowing which one will win in the long-term war. But Khadan is willing to eat the horse if it doesn't learn some sense. But he feels along the muscles, seeing how tired, testing for the tremble of exhaustion, wondering whether it's time to. All the horses are tired, and they move from one to another to sort of break up the load, the encumbrance that each horse has to horse has to bear, because keeping horses fresh is the keeping horses fresh, or at least as strong as possible, is the difference between success and failure out on the plains. And knowing how far the horses can go is knowing whether you can survive or not. And he tests the horse and decides it's time to change. So he indicates for his Shao slave with a gentle pull on the leash around her neck to indicate. He stops her horse and with a gentle pull indicates that she should dismount, and they move to their other horses and mount up again. And as he travels, he points out a rider up ahead, the biggest of the riders, Chulun. He says to the Shao slave, points to the slightly smaller but still noble, the one with the noble gait, Teneka. Goes on round the tribe, pointing out Sarnai. Carries on round the others, pointing out each one, Beragai, Korodai, Orgalai, Osun, and finally he points to himself, Khadan, and he points to the slave and wants to hear her name.
She nods after the first few names you give, understanding your meaning, and like with a intelligence obvious despite her exhaustion, you see her like nod in turn as each are given thereafter until yourself. And at your gesture, she will point to her own chest and say, Chen Chi, and look down, finding her feet after she's dismounted from the horse.
Pleased at her intelligence, he helps her up on the back of the next horse, and then carries on with the lesson as they ride, explaining the name of the different horses, the many names of different horses, different types of horses in the Tarn language, probably, and requiring her to reply with the same in her own language as they ride, surprised at how few different words they have to describe horses, how poor their language is. He also goes on sort of pointing out the various important things that anyone must have, goats, the vital sort of basic vocabulary that he thinks people need, and learning it from her, what their equivalent is of goats, sheep, cattle.
She would like give a furrowed brow after a while of this, and then speak with more courage than previous, and say, "Yes, master, I know your tongue, and others from my own." And all these words, and she'll like recount many of them in decent Tuigan tongue, in the Tarn tongue, in the true tongue.
good. Kadan is usually very careful on his looks, but he's still got a bit of blood in his hair, and he hasn't taken the usual look. But he's too tired to care about that. But he is. His mind is taken over with the battle, and occasionally he's distracted and sort of seems to be speaking to himself as he travels, but also he basically is having a language lesson from her, keen to learn something of the Shu tongue, or to start lesson 1 of the Shu language.
As you command, Master, she'll say, trying to suppress her weariness and be subservient to you in the hope that she won't be brutalized, as she would understand to be a common way for the Tuigan folk. And she would begin your instruct by when you say cattle, horse, sword, things like that. She would say the words that you've said, and then give it in Shao, and leave your mouth and tongue to wrangle with the weird speech.
And that's basically how, when he has a bit of energy, that's how he doesn't seem to be in a mood to chat with his brothers and sisters at the moment, but he's losing himself in lessons in the Shao language from this slave at the moment, with what little energy he has left.
Can I get an insight check from you, sir?
That is... sorry, just 1 second. I got a 15.
It strikes you, this Shao woman can't be too many years older than yourself. Is obviously keenly intelligent and knows 5 languages. An odd thing to pluck from a Zamogedi camp.
It's more than I... There's a little sort of glimmer of a smile on his face around the edges as it sort of dawns on him that she's slightly more valuable than he thought. But he doesn't want to fall behind, so they spur on the horses to keep up with the others while the lesson continues. And he keeps instinctively, he's got a +8 perception, so he's always looking round for it's just instinctively for him to be looking out for pursuers or anything else as they travel.
You've noticed Bayontu bringing up the rear with his 2 slaves. And he'd smile at you cheerful, even though one of his eyes looks badly bruised and there's a gash running from the top of one side of his brow to the other. That's obviously let down a lot of blood. That's recent from the battle. You know enough through your weariness to see. Though he doesn't seem any diminished by it, and smiles, revealing most of his teeth left to you as he rides up. Best not to slow down, cut undone. How's your wife? And he points across to the Shao woman and gives another broad smile.
She's my slave, not my wife. And
she's pretty. You should make her your wife. You should be smart like me. And he looks back to his slaves and gives another smile. She gave me this, and he points to his head with a dirty, swollen finger from the battle, and tapping on his head on the other side from the wound. Fiery. I like this.
No, I am the heir. He's sorry. What did you say?
That you should marry this one. I see you're tired from the battle.
I can hear you chattering like gadflies. I'm watching out for pursuit. You keep your eyes and mind on what you're doing. He says. He seems a little distracted.
I've come to tell the Khan there is no movement from behind again. We're not being followed, at least not from what I can see.
We will be soon enough.
That is true.
The Zamogedi will see the flames, see the smoke, and then follow back.
We will run into the hills. They'll never catch us, and they'll never find us, he says, confidently smiling in that same manner as before.
They will.
He'll whip his horse on, and the two thralls are slaves behind him, ropes to his own saddle horn, up along the grim train and procession to where you three are in speech. You noticed Karan dozing off and trailing behind a ways, but still the caravan is together. And after Boyontu has rejoined you and told you of no signs of pursuit from the rear, he'll leave you to it and march back behind the caravan, where you can see like the sun's beginning its ascendance, heralding so by a glow on the horizon beyond.
We must keep moving, Teneka, even by night. If they catch us here, we're done for. We need the safety over the hollows.
That we do.
The horses grow slow.
We have a great many.
I'll glance back to Kadan and then run my eyes over the rest of the caravan to see how the fatigue is faring amongst everyone else.
You can see the young woman you know as Bestatire's daughter giving a cold face to you three at the front of the column, but her thin lips tightly sealed. Nearby to her, there's a dour glance from like the swipe makeup ridden face of Dorganay, the second wife of Khan Naican, and it's just a face of acrid venom that she gives you. You see it like briefly in the glow as she like moves from side to side in her saddle. It doesn't look like she slept either. She looks as tired as you, but where you're motivated by caution and fear, it seems she is awake with like a burning anger and hatred, which you'd expect of a woman of her standing. And when she sees your eye, like locks eyes with you, Tanaka Khan, as you look across the grim column, she'll hiss and bare her old yellowed teeth at you and reach up, bite in between her index finger and thumb and suck half a mouthful of blood from her hand and spit it in a mist before her in your direction and like begin cursing under her breath. Can I have a perception check from you, sir?
Certainly. Perception +5. 24.
You're keen of hearing, even in your exhausted, near-manic state. You're keen enough to hear her words, her curses as they're carried into the pre-dawn gloom. May your member wither, may dogs eat you. My husband will ride south and litter your guts for the vultures to augur. And she'll just hold her hand out before you as you imagine the blood dripping down the bitten or mangled palm. Down into the dirt or flanks of her horse as she rides and gives you a lingering, baleful glare.
I'll return a look with one of my own, almost challenging her curse before I turn back to my siblings.
We should kill her. He like shrugs. She can't put curses on you like that. We should kill her. It'd be a good lesson for the rest of them.
More blood spilled. Still, you might not be wrong.
You don't have to spill her blood. You could break her back instead.
True.
Suppose if we kill her, though. I don't know if this is ever fixable with us in the Zamogedi. So what's the harm? I don't know if killing her would remove the curse.
If we had to kill her, I'd rather do it more tactically. If we are heading to the hollows, and we know for a fact that they will follow, it would spur them into furious fervour to come across our body before they follow us in. It will make them perhaps make mistakes.
We need that. We're going to need them to make mistakes.
It seems her death is already told. How long until we reach the hollow, do you reckon?
From what Geran, who's like ahead of you guys off in the gloom unseen, but he returns intermittently to report, he thinks you'll reach it before noon this day. Maybe sooner if you cycle through all of the horses raided by the Zamogedi. You could reach it swifter than that without all of the prisoners, like yourselves galloping, could reach it much quicker, but that's what he estimates, sometime before noon today.
Mm-hmm.
It's just before dawn, or like on the cusp of dawn at the moment.
We need to get there as soon as possible. We have to rest. We have to make preparations. We have to make a path that we want them to flow into and fall.
Agreed. There's no time for rest for now.
Then it's a good thing we have so many horses.
We'll make great use of them.
Zarnai pouts a little. You're welcome.
Chillin smiles but doesn't say anything. He just looks at Teneka.
Yeah, the similar twin look, as it were, shared amongst them, I would imagine.
Oh, come on. I got all of them. Really? Nothing?
I'll tell you what. I'll thank you, and I'll even bow down before you if we can reach before noon with these horses.
She like gets a glint in her eye. I'll be at the back, encouraging the slowest.
Chillin like laughs at that and understands what that's going to look like. But will like give her a wink. And then he'll like say to Teneka, should one of us go ahead and begin preparations?
Yes, we should perhaps scout ahead and see the best routes to take.
Did we leave anyone at the Marmot Hollows? We left our like non-warriors there, right?
Yeah, I think you took like the dozen armed and mounted men, of whom one perished, and everyone else of who's part of your tribe you left at the Marmot Hollows.
Okay. Then he would.
I don't have the list in front of me, but
yeah,
Tuigan, Ibaka, Ogle, and such. Dash, Kotota.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is to kind of go further in, correct?
Yeah, my understanding is like the Marmot Hollows is like uneven ground, and there's like holes dug by rodents and stuff, right? So it's very difficult to ride a big bunch of horses up it. So if we can like get there in advance and put barriers in the way and like lead them in a certain direction, then it's very likely that they'll fall into those holes if we like discover where they are.
If they charge you pell mell.
Yeah.
It's probably for the best then. It'd probably be it's one of those things where I don't know whether I would do it myself or delegate, but certainly to if the camp's already there, I mean it's a workforce that can be utilised while we're making our way.
I think you need to be here. I would say. I'll go then. I'll be quick, and it'll be ready when you get there.
So with a swish of your whip, you can gallop off the rising sun at your back, and you can soon meet up with Geran and ride on beyond him to arrive back at the Marmot Hollows camp well before Teneka's host. People are elated with your news, though soon the cheers die down as they're set to work, cutting short their regular chores with, I imagine, ditch digging and rock hauling and things of that nature.
Yeah, basically want
to work.
go around and find out where like the deeper holes are, and if there's like a path, even a winding one that like covers many of them, that we want to try then and basically filter anyone who's going to come towards our camp through that path, you know. So like whatever it is, putting sharp stones or like there's not much wood in the step. So whatever we can find, you know, bits of tents, wagons, whatever else, so that they have to go through this part, and like ideally the first person is going to fall off their horse, and that will cause all the other horses to fall. And so that kind of stuff. And Chilun will be himself in this, which is like get the job done and like threaten physical violence if no one is doing it. And he himself will do a great amount of it also, and like will work even though he's knackered. Like I'll take exhaustion if I have to, but he's going to work until like, he can't stand.
I think you'd take a level of exhaustion by the time you got to the camp, and then a level of exhaustion from exerting yourself through that day, pushing through the threshold without rest. So things are underway, like those work teams are underway, setting in motion those preparations you just mentioned. And all people can stop and look up from their toil to witness Teneka Khan bow to his sister as she urges the prisoner column into camp an hour before noon, and then like into the camp proper to filter out the mounts, and for families to reunite, and for the great wealth and hoard that you've brought back to be disseminated as is proper by the Khan. There's been a few people who have come to the camp in your absence, though none of note, like those of men who had spurned Vulture's service. Old people and eager youths coaxed out with the promise of horses and wealth from this rising Khan of the East Steppe. And those people will like swear before you, make the sacred oaths, and take what gifts you deign, Teneka, to make the ranks of your Khanate swell slightly. And all beyond your main tent, after you've like returned to it, Teneka, with your prisoner, like chief prisoners in tow, you can see everyone eventually like getting back to work, building up the ridges, hauling stones to force attackers into certain perilous paths, making full use of the ridges, the marmot holes, and hills safeguarding your southern approach. All is done by your will. And even still, Dorgane, who has not slept, is like shrieking out curses at you from the tent behind, like in your own ger.
Yeah, once we know the kind of, I guess, structural layout of the defences, we'll order that done, that she is essentially taking out as and her back broken on the road in as a marker, as it were.
Who will you command to do that?
The thing is, it's one of those things that I think it'd probably be better if he did himself, because how could you ask someone to do that? But
it's kind of Chilun's job, unfortunately, to do that stuff, and he like will agree, though it will haunt him certainly, but he wouldn't let on about that.
So the command is given that Dorgane must die, her back be broken, and she be set to infuriate the coming foe.
Yep.
As you take her up in her finery, sorry, we're going to say something, Jex?
No.
As you take her up Chulun, beyond the fortifying ridges of the Marmot Hollow and like out into the open before your camp, she's still hissing curses at you and your siblings, and that you're brigands, that you're criminals, that you'll pay for this, that her husband and her stepson will dance on your belly and your spine.
He'll knock her out as the curses begin. He's not interested in listening to it, and he's afraid that she might have magic power. And so she starts making curses about them. He'll just like a headbutt her or something to like knock her out.
As she's swooning in and out of unconsciousness, as you like set her atop like a slate rock, bound down, and can do as you wish.
He'll take a few minutes to like think about it. He's like worried that anyone might be watching, in which case he just has to just do it quickly and not worry about it. But he is worried about it, and the like wholesale killing of these people. Like he knows that it's effective, and it's probably what Yargai would have done, and it's certainly like what a lot of the great Khans do. but still young, and it's still a big struggle for him. But once he kind of realizes that, like, if he doesn't do it, then Teneka has to, or Kadan has to, or Sarnai has to, then he'll just like take a deep breath and like take her arms and put his knee into her back and crack it.
With my death, you seal your brother's curse. And then a slumped figure onto the rock.
He'll like let the body drop, and the hands are shaking badly at that, and he doesn't really know how to process it or how to like do anything about his curse. And he wonders if he should even say something about it. But yeah, his hands shake.
I imagine that night, an exhausted heap, you all find the comfort of your gers and the safety for now of your camp. Though maybe your sleep is fitful from recent traumas.
This is summer, isn't it?
Yep.
So there's a fair amount of grass around, sort of leading up to the Marmot Hollows for grazing and things like that.
Yeah, not so much as there'd be without your vast herds here, but yep.
And how dry is it? Would it burn?
I don't. It would burn, I think, but not like as like a bushfire or something. That would be more like an autumn concern, I'd think. The summer grasses would be green.
Mm-hmm. So if I think there's a danger of grass, I'll burning them using burning grass or just it catching fire with flame arrows. We'll cut out some turf to make a fire break, but if not, just leave it as it is.
Yeah, you could imagine Shao forces using fire on grass to like smoke screen their forces in an assault, or something like that. If the weather was conducive, but here, like, you don't see any real risk of that, and so can divert your energy to other toil.
Mm-hmm. In that case, I'll be digging and funneling everybody else through the marmot tunnels to break the horses' legs as they come galloping in, and digging extra and making sure I work every bit as long as Chulun. I'm not letting him work less than me, or work more than me.
The other workers around you also, you go.
Just Chulun will happily surrender once they're here and they can work, because he knows that if he's this exhausted and tired when they come, that he'll be useless. And so, like, once he sees that everyone else is working, he'll just like make his way to a tent and like meditate and try and sleep.
Yeah, you sit down to meditate and just you can't remember the meditation. You just drift off into a fitful sleep. That night, as you've like finished from whatever tour you were set to, Teneka, you can retire to the Khan's ger, and herein your like chief prisoners have been corralled by Geren, and what other warriors, or Jebu say, are guarding your tent this evening. You see Hordelands, who you know to be the wife of Besutai, who is the son of Nayaga Khan, but not son of Dorganay. She is the Khan's second wife, the first one having died years ago. You see too Gerbersu, the daughter of Hordelands and Besutai, and her younger brother, who's stopped crying, though still looks snifflish and through roomied eyes at you, a lad of like 5 years or so. And these nobles like cast a sour figure at the back in the shadows of your fine ger, and you feel the comforts of the furs beneath you and your belongings around as you step in from the work and the camp beyond and into your private quarters. Geren will look to them and put one thumb in his belt and the other around the hilt of his curved sword and give you the look of, is there anything else, my Khan?
I'll just shake my head.
And you hear him open the hides opening to the tent and step out, and you can hear now, even as the sun's going down, some men still talking amongst each other and some work still going on. though the camp's quietening down now from its crescendo of flurry today. And then that noise will disappear in the sight of it too as he steps out, but stays on guard within calling of you as night falls heavy and dark. Hordeland stands up, eyes downcast at first, so eventually she'll risk to bring them up to meet you. Where is Mother Dogane? And then behind her, still kneeled, Gerbesu says without looking, she's dead. And Hordeland gives a look of shock and then back to you, Teneka.
As soon as our eyes fall upon me, there's a nod. She is.
She swallows hard, the shock now being stripped and replaced with abject fear. She stands instinctively in front of Gerbesu, kneeling, who doesn't seem to need it. And the young boy, hearing the news of his grandmother's death, shakily will move to grab at the skirt bottoms of his mother.
I will say this only once, and then it will be unspoken and known only by deed. Despite what I have done, you will be treated as kindly as I and mine can provide by our customs.
Gerbesu looks up, and your eyes meet hers for a moment, and that's enough for you to tell her that she understands. Hordeland still looks hopeless, as if looking about or listening for the sounds of her husband and his warriors' approach to liberate them. So it stifles her for a moment until she eventually feels the tugging motion of her young son and looks to him and remembers her duty, and with one hand puts him instinctively closer behind her while nodding vigorously to you in subservience.
You're in my camp now where my word is law, and the word of a wolf, much like its actions, is serious and certain. As I say, you have been afforded courtesy of my hospitality, which is something you should perhaps consider as to why. That you may not be trusting is no surprise. Indeed, it's understandable, and I suspect you will see treachery and trickery in every shadow that dances upon the walls of my yurt. His gaze will fall upon Hordeland, who I can imagine is the wide-eyed and looking around still. But that does not mean there is anything there but the thought of devils you have conjured yourself. You and your son will be split from one another, although you will still be permitted to see him. We will care for him. You, say, looking towards Gerbesu, you will be split from them as well. I suspect, given the stare, I suspect there's something of a wolf in you.
You see her jaws tense and flex on either side, leaving a dimple on one that's deep line like a grave. Her eyes are serious as your words. They look back to you.
He'll give a simple nod at that, as if it's a affirmation of what he was thinking. You are welcome to approach me any time, but not for some days yet. If you have anything to say, now is the time. for I need my rest.
My mother needs water. My brother needs food.
They will be provided for.
She gives a single slow nod of, that's all.
I'll call in Garan from outside and relay what has to be done. That they've all essentially to be split up. Apart from the mother and son, who get to spend at least one night together while the boy kind of gets over the shock of what's happened, because he's only, 5 years old?
Yep. Like a Spartan about to be ripped from his mother's arms and trained by you brutal men.
Yep.
Bargujin, son of Besutai.
Bargujin. Yeah, so that's the orders that will be given. And a little side note to Geran would be to basically keep an eye on Gerbesu much more.
I'll watch you like a hawk, my Khan.
Sure that you do.
Now he'll nod and like give one last look between the prisoners and then exit from the gur again. And you can lay down on a fur pallet and find a deep, thick, heady sleep. When you retire from your work later on that evening, cut undone, Chen Chi is there and has like softened meat inside your gur, brewed a tea over some coals, has like dusted out your sleeping pallet, and has like a hemp shawl or shift like folded that she'll like adopt and stand up to meet you as you enter into the tent. And with a bow, will like hand it over to you once you've like peeled off the sweaty, putrid, like wretch-worthy hides and clothes that you and the warriors wear under your armor, where like the sweat and blood and muck gathers. And she'll take these aside and assist you to take your shirt off and place the clean one over you after your toil, and go to take a bandage and sop it in some warming water nearby to the tea and wipe down your neck and hands where the grime is thickest from your toil. It feels quite luxurious given the exertions of the last 3.5 days, and your weariness hits you like a car.
Also, the bandages around my broken ribs have been there for some days, and I'll start unwinding those and see if she'll bind up the ribs again whilst I'm sort of coughing up blood.
She will, and like wipe at your lip where there's some muck gathered after she's like bandaged up the ribs as best she can, and like tisk for you to sit, and then take some of the tea and like place it in a bowl, and then grab her shawl and like throw it over your head and trap you like face and nose over this steaming bowl, which cuts your breath and waters your eyes closed when you try and break it free.
And then realize what she's sort of throw her into the side, and then realize what she's doing if she makes any sudden moves.
Yeah, it's not some potion or spell you think, or else she'd have already had you. And like mucus and like dark red phlegm begins to be like summoned up that you're forced to like expel in increasing amounts. But still she'll urge you with the shawl, and eventually your like paranoia recedes as you begin to feel like slightly better. But much more sleepy, almost like your lids are so heavy now that you have to divert a good manner of your like will to keep in consciousness.
Then I indicate for her to come to bed, and in a second I'm asleep. But
yeah, you're like snoring with that deep exhaustion, and she'll curl next to you like a cat looking out towards the tent, weighing up as all slaves would this night, whether to try and tempt it and break and free and run. And just through teary eyes, that thought keeps her up long until exhaustion seizes her too and takes her down to sleep. Ibuka and Tokugana, who like serve you in some manner, Sano, have similar like rituals for your return to your ger, and you can tell that they've been gossiping most vehemently about the new women who have been brought into camp, and there's much ire and jealousy of like the noble ones who share the Khan's tent, and there's like much gossip going on that you hear, and cut mostly short when you like step in under the ger, but they give each other a look of to be continued. I know. And they'll both bow to you in Harakana.
She looks between them. What is it you speak of?
Just the women, my Kana, the new ones. And the other, Ibuka nods, confirmation. Is it true that Gerard has a wife now, she says, like as if she's just tasted off milk?
Sanai shrugs. I believe he had a woman with him. Whether it is wife or slave, I cannot say. I did not ask.
She gives like a stung, silent look back. And Tokugana will like come to help like remove your armor. And if you have any wounds, she'll like wash them down. And see to like adding some unguent to the side of your face at the burns.
Yeah, there's a hiss of air through teeth at the sting of wounds being cleaned. But Sarnai will submit to the ministrations.
Only old men and young boys have come into the camp, Kana, since your absence. None fit for us, says Tokugana imperiously, and Ibuka like agrees, nodding. We've decided, Kana, we don't want to be stolen. We want to stay wolves. But it seems all the wolves want other wives. And she'll like take your like war braid out and like brush it out, and the other will like take your war harness from your waist and place it onto the mannequin near your sleeping pallet.
Sarnai kind of looks at them a little surprised. She goes, "Then it seems we are kindred spirits. I have no wish to leave my brothers."
Are we not to leave, Kana, says Ibuka, suddenly like worried. I thought we would run from this place. The men speak of the Zamogedi coming in great number and with great wrath.
And indeed they do.
She looks fearful, and you can see like the thought process that's going on behind her and Tokugana's eyes, one of being like captured in servitude and horrors like what they suffered under Al Reed and others.
Chulun is always prepared. Kadan is never without a plan. And Teneka is sure and strong. We will be ready.
He'll be weak once all those vixens have had their fun with him, like she says, venomous, looking off in the direction of the Khan's tent.
Sarnai actually snorts. Teneka is unlikely. No.
You were wrong, Kana. Men only think of one thing, and Tokugana nods, like raising her brows, like of course. Finishes like brushing out the braid.
Have you not been around my brothers long enough to know that they have different ideas? Kadan thinks more of a horse and where it should graze than women. Chulun thinks only of his stomach, and Tanaka wouldn't know a beautiful woman if she hit him in the face.
Yeah, they think on your words and are forced to like agree. They nod, much to their frustration, like what you say is the truth, as far as they're concerned. And they'll eagerly beg you for like gossip and news from beyond the camp and of the details of the battle of the against the Zamogedi and such. Though if you like speak of that or hint at it, they will grow silent and troubled at it, as like thinking of the fate of those men and women who they can empathize with.
I don't think Sarnai would speak of it into something that already weighs heavy upon her. But she would tell them perhaps of the wealth that they had brought back and of the number of horses and such things.
Yeah, like talking with these women and like the community that they bring and the comfort of this girl. You can't rightly remember when conversation ended and the dreams begun. The next morning, sorry, you go.
Just like it's the moment where you think you're awake, only to realize that you've been dreaming for hours.
And the next morning, Gera and Dash and many of the other adults of the Khanate are at their work as they were yesterday, much to your satisfaction, Chulun, when you rise later than you'd have liked, certainly. And though your like concerns and worries begin to gnaw at you immediately, your body at least is thankful that you'd slept to well after the dawn. You're stiffer in some places, but overall you can feel like the energy warming back in and spreading in back in amongst the corded muscles of your arms and back, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah, he wants to like immediately run outside and like make sure everything's in good order, but he knows that like that won't help him, so he'll like sort of rise slowly and like go through the stretches and like exercises that he was taught when he was younger, and like go through like the whole routine for about an hour until he's like feels limber and ready, and like the soreness in many of his muscles from the fight and the ride and all the work is mostly gone.
Similar as last night, with the same kind of like ritual subservience and attention to detail, you're awoke and cut undone to the smell of pleasanter food than you'd have just procured for yourself before dawn, and it like wakes you from your dream and causes you to turn in the pallet and then drift nearly back to sleep before curiosity, as it often does, takes you to raises one eye all the way to see her hunched over the cooking gear in the corner of the ger, throwing off some heat to light her face in like the dimness of the tent. You can hear by the sounds outside now, as you become more accustomed to them, that toil is going on. You cannot tell the hour for certain. She looks and seeing you awake and gives a bow. I'm sorry for waking you, master.
I needed to wake. You did well. He snatches some food. He takes some food from her, and just scratching himself, leaves the tent, just sort of ignoring her at the moment in the morning, just to see the preparations and what everyone else is doing. Looking around the camp, he just gets an eye for how things are, and he breathes in deeply, trying to get a feeling of how his lungs, how his broken ribs are feeling, if he's got the same wince and pain, and then he'll sort of just trace the path that they've directed these raiders along, just looking out for if he has to run it, or use it. Wondering if the most nimble horse, if he takes the most nimble horse, or if the best rider takes the most nimble horse, whether we could possibly run along the same route without landing in any of the holes, and but lead the others along this route. Just trying to work out whether it could be done.
As in to like have a feigning force to lure the enemy and then take a secret route through the perilous field.
Yeah, basically the same route that they take, but knowing where all the traps are, whether we could just sort of somehow.
Yeah, I guess you. Yeah, that could be done, but only by the best riders at pace, I think. You're all good riders, so you could all do it in the day, taking it slowly to like have your horse pick through the perils. But at a gallop, I think it could only be achievable and risked by the best riders.
Yep. So I'll work out. If you can tell me, I'll be working it out and try and work out the DC, and then I'll report it to Teneka later.
Okay. Yeah, the best riders would be Osun, who's like the best like warrior, I guess, and Bayantu and Korodai, those mercenaries who've been working for Volchi for some time. Those would be the three most skilled riders, I think. Jegu is a good rider as well, but he's young, which isn't always like the best. Like impulsive youth might not be the best thing for this field compared to those other three candidates I mentioned. But to your immediate discernment, they would be the candidates that you would offer up to the Khan.
And out of us, it's probably Sanai.
Sanai, I think. Yeah, she's the best rider. Oh, what bait! What bait to have the sister of the Khan after the enemy army's been enraged by the obvious death of their Khan's wife by way of Dorgane's body. That would be enraging. So you can spend your time in the morning going over that Karam with some of those riders who are not at their work. Once you finish your routine, Shulun, you can go to the Khan's Ger to see Teneka like finishing his sparse fair, and Sanai arrives soon after. And well now, as like it's after dawn, the camp's in a flurry of activity.
Yeah, he'd like walk in and like ruffle Thornai's hair because it's obviously just been done, and like to get his tongue, and then like when the messing is done, he'll like sit with like his hands on his thighs in that sort of like calm way, and like look to Teneka to see what the plan is.
Yeah, seeing them going into the tent for morning council, he'll kind of make his way as well.
Okay.
You come in and Sarnai is trying to tuck strands of hair back into the braids that Torkugana had done. Every time. Really?
And he'll just grin and stick out his tongue.
Yeah, there's a slight smile on Tanaka's face too, seeing this as he waits for the servants. Because I imagine that at this point there's a kind of customary breakfast of the siblings.
And it's whatever
you
desire that they can get.
It's almost like just a continuation of normal everyday life for us, except clearly it's not.
Yeah, maybe Kortu like fostered that when you guys were brought up. She always try and force you to have good breakfast before you like run off in different directions to go riding horses or shooting bows or climbing mountains. And so some servants will like bring you like fare and drink that you've asked for, and Aslan will come and take Bagujin, son of Besudai, and to his credit and his mother's neither cry and shame themselves, though both look filled with stony sadness. Gabesu looks on. You could be forgiven at quick glance for thinking like it's a casual coldness, but with longer discernment, see that she's trying to adopt the cold face in the same manner that Yargai would. That he still felt somewhere in there. These thoughts drift away as the smell of breakfast replaces it, and all siblings reunited after the servants have finished at their fussing. Gabesu and Hugalun will step back to the recesses of the camp in silent knelt subservience to their captors.
We are as prepared as we can be. I'll look to Jolin and probably Kadan, because knowing it, he'd have an oversight as well of the preparations.
We've set and he's about to speak, and he like looks at the slaves here, and he looks at Teneka. Do we make battle plans with captives here with us? Like they're still in the same gers, are they?
Yep. And looking over at them, you'd probably like looking at Hoagland. She cuts like such a shaky like what's the word? Like she's preoccupied with her son. It's clear that you'd have not really any fear of her. She looks a broken woman as is, but something about Gerbesu is like hard as under mountain diamonds. Like she's slaty, and you think that like that's unsettling. The idea of discussing sensitive things with her there, just by the look she gave Teneka earlier.
Yep. So he would definitely, before he like started to talk about specifics and plans and things like that, he would like look in her direction. Should move her somewhere.
Come, mother, she'll say, and she'll like pick her mother up under the armpit and like get them to her eyes and wait for a nod from Tanaka, and they'll go to leave.
Yeah, he'll give the nod to a couple of to go guard them essentially as well.
Yeah, Gellin will fall in behind them. Gellin follows them at 5 paces.
Particularly her, we should like tie her feet together or something, so she can't run. Because guards can be foolish.
This is true.
And while she can't run away from Chaloon, because he moves like a wolf, she might be able to run away from one of our guards.
This is true. I'll take no risks I'll take no risks on this day. So yeah, I'll have it so she is bound and unable to stab any of her guards in the back.
Yeah, she'll look with like dreadful contempt at Garen as he binds her tightly. We'll take her out of this ger to another. And it's left now just to you 4 inside the comforts of this tent, which if you squint and imagines could be like Yargai's.
Once they're like gone and the place is a little bit quieter, he'll say, I set up a path, the only real path that they can take. We've covered up as best we can evidence of the marmot pits there. If we can get them to charge at us and not think, and we focus our fire on the leading horse and the rider, then they'll fall, and then the rest will fall on top of them. And if we keep firing in that narrow corridor, we should kill many of them before they get anywhere near us.
Let us hope the rage makes them foolish then.
It is a trap and it is deadly. There will be many horses with broken legs, and there will be a lot of horse meat this winter to eat if we are successful. But if we are to lure them in, it might be possible for 1, 2, at the most 3 horses to run along the route if the rider knows exactly where to place the hooves, where to do little jumps, and where to shorten the strides to take shorter steps. They might be able to gallop, or as near as gallop, their way through to lure the pursuers in. There aren't many in the camp who could do such a ride. Sanai and maybe 2 or 3 others, if they are willing. If they have the nerve, he says, glancing over at Sanai.
I will do it.
Absolutely
I'm
not.
afraid. I'm not afraid.
It's not about you being afraid. It's insane. He looks to Tanaka like, it has to be me or you.
You said yourself that you would need them enraged to come in headlong.
Sanai is a better horse rider than you, I say to my brother.
Well, no one's a better rider than me, but Sanai is very good. But that's not the point. What if it doesn't go well? What if she doesn't make it perfectly? What if
Sanai
she falls?
is tougher than you. She can survive longer than you. Well, it depends but she can survive.
I don't like it. It's too risky. It shouldn't be one of us.
It will go well. I will not fall.
This is a suicidal risk anyway. There are 80 of them, and half a dozen of us. We need to take risks if we have any chance of winning.
But why does it have to be Sinai? I can do it.
Yeah.
Have you not left the body of their Khan's wife? Will they not wish retribution? What better target for them than me?
What if they catch you?
You won't be far away. Neither will Khadan or Teneka.
He goes to like speak some more, but instead he just like reaches over and like picks up some sort of greasy meat and shoves it into his mouth and just looks at Teneka.
I don't like it either. But you should have some distance on them. Should anything go wrong.
I can run as fast as a horse. I can be out there too, hiding, and if something goes wrong, I can...
And I can run as fast as you.
No, you can't, and that's a terrible idea. Why would two of us be in danger?
I won't be in danger, you will.
No, I won't.
This is a question really for who can shoot the bow the best, because that is primarily what you will be doing while you lure them, thinning their numbers. So, Nai, you have a great many talents, but the bow is not one of them.
No, the people with the best bow shot should be up in the edges of the pass,
And
thinning
the
out
rest-
their numbers as they run.
The rest of them will be. However, they need some to terrify them while they chase. Children would be better.
She's a more tempting target, it's true.
I will not deny that.
It just sits ill with me. You're young, Sinai, and he just shrugs.
And
We have-
capable.
We've inflicted a lot of misery on them, and if they got you, they would do the same, and I couldn't.
Do not be weak. It will not happen. Yargai would never let his fear control his decisions.
Yargai would never let his daughter do such a task,
Nor his sister.
nor his sister.
The way Yargai did things is not necessarily the only way.
Ha!
Customs can change.
Khadan is right. Teneka, if you wish me not to go, I will not go. But I could do it.
I will take a great bow, and I'll be ready. And she's right. Kadana's right. They'll follow her more than they'll follow me. Any who get too close, I will shoot their horse from under them.
You know, we don't need to kill the horses, just the warriors.
Much easier to kill a horse.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at Sanai with a resigned look on his face, he'll say, Teneka will say, pray you pick your best horse for this task then.
If you get in trouble out there, I'll kill you.
You'll have to catch me first. And she like says that with a grin, knowing he's much faster than her.
Yeah, he just like sort of shakes his head, but then sticks out his tongue.
She'll like reach over and steal a piece of food from in front of him.
Just about as she's about to put it into her mouth, he'll just like reach out with his like insane speed and like grab it back and pop it into his mouth. I'm faster than you.
Only when it comes to food. It's not my fault if all you think about is your stomach. I bet you didn't even take a wife.
I'll have a wife. I know who it is.
Ooh, it's Altani, isn't it?
She'd make a good wolf.
So you do have eyes in your head. I wondered.
I just don't have to talk about it all the time. Not like the monkey.
Yes, you and Teneka. It'd be nice to know what was going on in your heads, at least some of the time, not make me guess.
We tell each other.
You don't say anything.
We still tell each other.
She rolls her eyes, like somewhat familiar with the twin telepathy weird bond they have.
They send each other their stupidity.
I don't speak monkey. Can you say that again?
Tanaka, what will you do with Gerbesu?
Kadan looks down and scowls at that.
She'll ruffle his hair and then like pull on his ear.
She's dangerous, that one. You can see it in her eyes. But I don't yet know.
Who do we have as our first warning, our first sentry? We'll need to know ahead of time.
Jebu's off near the rocks with his horse hidden beyond where Dorganay's body is bound to that rock. So he'd be like the most forward scout, be beyond the outskirts of where your camp is. But you have no scout as yet further off than that, like a day's travel or further away from the camp.
From what distance would we be able to see 80? But if they've got
a mile or more on a clear day, if you've got a height.
But surely with the dust coming that they knock up, wouldn't there be more? Could we see the dust cloud coming from further?
Potentially in the steppe, you can see a lot further than a mile too, right?
Especially from the hollows, because they're in the foothills of the fire peaks. So the ground's raised up here and looks down upon the approach that your enemies will most likely take. So you could see them quite a ways off. It won't be like a matter of they're coming and then they come. It will be a matter of they're coming and then an hour or two later they arrive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If your scouts spot them. But like looking for candidates for who to do what, like your list is scant thin. You know, like considering what jobs you've got on the go at the moment and that you wanted to have those 3 riders practicing Kadan and having a scout. And like that's all of your men already delegated, you know, apart from Aslan and Osun. There's very few like competent warriors in your camp.
The danger of like my instinct would be to give bows to all of the slaves that we have, but many of those slaves are Zamogedi, so we can't arm them. But we can certainly arm like Torkagana and those people, I think.
Ibaka and all of them. Yeah, they can stand up in their camp and fire over into the fray. They won't be good like Kadan and like Jebu and the other archers, but they'll be better than nothing.
Yep, it's more arrows. And they don't even have to aim particularly, they just have to aim like at an area.
Yeah, they'll do as commanded and leave like a few to guard the slaves should they rebel. Dash, of course, will customarily like hide and mutter and snivel inside a ger while the fighting goes on.
Teneka, who should go with me?
I've already forgotten the names of the best riders. Where's that
I have
list?
2, that's why I'm asking you.
Korodai, Bayantu, Jegu, and Osun are the best riders, but Jegu's scouting at the moment, so Osun, Bayantu, and Korodai were the best riders under Sanai. Yeah, the thought gnaws at you, Julun, like it's not enough. You think Yargai would run. You think like Yargai would, like a wolf wouldn't attack this.
No, it's too many by far. Like 10 to 1.
Even with the Dalat, you would have been out. Even like with if you'd somehow got to the Dalat force and engaged the enemy, you would have been outnumbered. Then you imagine.
Well, that brings on the kind of another question I was going to ask is what kind of fallback route do we have here?
From where you are, you couldn't go west because that's where the enemy are and where the marmot holes are. So it would like screw your horses. Southwest leads into other plains again, so you'll be able to be like captured by a greater host of cavalry. East is the winding, which now flows. So like southwest that the 5 peaks are, could be a retreat. Could try and lose them in the mountains. But the tribes don't dwell in the 5 peaks. It's the domain of the road folk and of the Mangoose and of other threats. But really the only viable escape route, unless you'd put yourself to flight, like, and trust your steed against the enemies to just escape on the plains, but it'd be a hard thing.
But the good thing about the mountains is we don't have to go far in, because once you reach them, you can essentially kind of split off and hide.
Yep.
It's like anathema to me to like run from this, but I actually think we might be like real screwed. I think there's so many of them, and I think even with the plan that we have, I think we might be in real big trouble. Like if we kill 40 of them, there's still 40. And like I don't even know if we'll kill 40 of them, you know?
That's a lot.
And killing their horses does not stop the men. Like it stops them for a little bit, but they're not going to die falling off their horses. And we'll just get surrounded and hacked to pieces. I don't really know what else beyond running that we can do. If we had like a wizard or something, there'd be many options, but we just have like us and our fists and our swords, and I don't know if we can take on 80.
You mean like we could hope that the Dalat have been able to take out some, and that it would be a smaller force, or that they might not bring all of their warriors back? But there would be no way to know for sure.
Yeah, unless you like put even more men out to scout them and less to prepare here. But that commits you then. Commits you to the spot if you're going to do that and send out scouts to them.
We don't have any problems with like tribes way to the east, right? Like
You've had no dealings with them, and the Naican under Yargai have been in the west.
So like the Kagun, the Uyghur, like we don't know who those people are necessarily.
Oh, you would have heard of them for sure, but like knowing useful like details about them now, I'm not sure how much. It'd have to be a dice roll, a history check to see what like you know of those individual tribes to the south and east and
But, like,
northeast.
They don't ring any bells necessarily about like being our tribal enemies or allies or anything.
No, not so far. You know that the Fan Kiang horses and the Zamogedi reindeers have a long-standing rivalry, that the Quirish were nearly destroyed under Yamun Khan, though eventually knelt to him. The Uyghur quarrel with the Quirish and the Kagun, who are much weaker now, and were like the chief horde before the coming of the Great Khan. They also became like subservient, not being completely destroyed by him. So they have no great love of like the Tuigan, or of like being conquered, of like Khans and talk like that. They've suffered under it in the past. The Pazaruk are wild, and like nearly unfair to call them Tuigan folk. They live up in the Pazaruki woods north of here, and I like imagine them more like Inuits, like Arctic dwelling people. Though still of the same religion as you horsemen. But any more detail than that, you'd probably need to talk to a traveler from east across the glittering spires.
I mean, it's potentially possible that we could cross those mountains, but not with all our horses. So we would just basically throw away all our wealth.
Yeah.
You know, you can't bring, what have you got, 40-something horses with us across the mountains? I don't think that's reasonable. So, like, maybe it's reasonable to go just, like, directly east towards the Uyghur and see what happens there, or, like, straight south. But, like, they'll catch us on the plains, I think, because they have more horses. And
Yep. And more riders, more scouts.
Yeah. So other options include one of us riding off to lead them in a direction away and give the other people time, or we try and fight them. But it does not look good.
If you had more numbers here, like you couldn't ask for a better place to face an enemy host who had to assail you. But it's like, it's very scant numbers. It only takes a few bad dice rolls for numbers to dwindle, where it just becomes a foregone conclusion of action economy that you'll be brutalized. It's very risky because of just how few numbers you have to soak.
How many could follow us? I mean, how many horsemen can come down the trail at a time?
I guess it would look like a trail for one or two, though you know that it's unsafe to pass any more than like one abreast, like in single file, now that it's been worked on and the holes and marmot warrens expanded.
So,
like
and if they try coming over the ground, they'll basically they'll be killing their horses.
Yeah, if they come at pace.
Yeah. So basically, if we lead them in, hit them, and then run off, we can sort of weaken them. I say we try and take out 10, or since 20, and then Scarpa disengage and Scarpa.
So to have your Khanate camp already flee this place, have it appear as if it's not, lure the enemy, fight them, engage them, and then once you've harried them, take 20 down,
lead them to the mountains, and find a place in the mountains to take another 20, and we'll weary them down like that.
That's I mean, that's probably what an actual like horse tribe would do. Is like not
several phases.
Battle. Yeah, like a big decisive battle is not really the style of like step people. I don't think.
It's like collections of skirmishes.
Yeah. So maybe that's wiser then. And if we take our best riders and we like harry them here and there, and while the rest of our people start to move across the mountains, is that like the way we want to go?
They'll still outnumber you if you want to take out 20. So on the plains, it wouldn't be useful, right? You'd still be flanked and enveloped.
Yeah.
If this trail that leads in is like two abreast or so, if say you let 20 pass without any issue, and then you have
traps are there already. We can't sort of choose when they fall. They'll just start falling when they arrive.
Yeah, once a charge is initiated through like the pass into your camp, they'll break leg, you would imagine.
As I imagine, they'll come chasing in the bait. They'll sort of suddenly legs will start breaking. They'll all start falling off their horses and things like that. We can rush in, each kill 2 people, rush back to our horses, get on them, and they can't gallop after us whilst we can gallop away. And then it's a chase. They've got to walk through, sort of gingerly, sort of regroup, make their way over the traps, and then catch up. Then try and catch us later. I think we can. How much time do you think that would win us? How much of a distance, or not distance, but how much time would it take them to go back and regroup and then pick their way over the marmots?
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes or more, maybe. I imagine them to be like skilled riders like you are, but older with more experience, so well able to recover from like a shock like that and maneuver around it at the expense of time.
So as you say, you've got the wave rushing in, tripping up and getting picked off by those who are, say, on the ground. But if you've got archers that can pepper the ones from that are coming behind, those that have already fallen, it keeps them away, as well as thins the numbers a bit more. So you could take out 20 in that wave if it all goes well.
And what, have the people up on the ridges with horses so that they can extricate themselves from that position after that first
Exactly.
phase?
So if they're
I
higher
see.
ground, they can basically cover our retreat while we jump on horses and
Yeah.
skedaddle.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and if it goes ill for them, just flee
Yeah.
on horseback. I guess that sits a lot more comfortably with you guys, though still it's 13 or 14 against an enraged, wounded horde.
Yep, and we don't know what there is in the mountains, but I think that's...
We know at least that there's mangoose in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm comfortable in the mountains.
Oh, yeah, God, we're in...
We're in trouble.
Cat that caught the cream, but now the farmers come.
Yeah, yep.
I think this might be a good time for a bio break and a smoko thought break.
Yeah, I need to smoke and think for sure.
Okay, excellent. Me too. All right, well, we'll reconvene in 5 minutes, hey?
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
All right, be back. Hey Lloyd, you back?
Yeah, man.
Lord?
Yep.
Could you give me? You were asking about the different tribes to the east before. Could you give me a history check? Because I've got a doc here that I found that has like a map of their rivalries and bonds and histories.
Cool. I just
Should be pretty interesting.
do I have any history? I do. So 15 all up.
Okay, so on those tribes to your, like those three bordering your east, your far east, the Quirish, Uyghur, and Kagun. The Kagun are sometimes called the Kashgun, old friends of the Dalat and enemies of the Kumani. The Kumani, that tribe to the south of the Kokchu Naican, whom he defeated.
Yeah.
So they're old friends of the Dalat, enemies of the Kumani, and speak the Chuchuan tongue, same as you guys in the central steps here. The Uyghur are friends to the Dalat, but enemies to the Naican. Have raided the Naican in the past when the Kokchu Naican or Yargai Naican were closer to that lake of mists down there near where the Dalat are on my overlay.
Yeah.
And the Quirish have long been friends of the Zamogedi and have actually raided with them against the Dalat in the past. They're fierce rivals with the Fenkiang horsemen of the Horse Plains, who are also fierce rivals of the Zamogedi. The Pazruk keep to themselves up there in the northern icy wastes.
Okay. Well, if the if the Kirish are friends of the Zamogedi, that puts us in bad stead because you can't really cross the mountains into their lands because then we're in the same situation.
Yeah, you imagine that hand you over to the Zamogedi.
Yeah. And the Uyghur are not our friends either, although we are not Yargai, nor are we Kokchu.
Yes, and you are friends with the Dalat, which they are.
So that might be a better place to flee. The thing about fleeing in that direction is it's going to be open plain and they'll catch us.
Yep, you'll have to leave wealth and slow people to make sure that you guys survive.
The thought that I had, and it might be mental, but was if we lure them into the hollows and thin their numbers as we had planned, and then we fight this like retreat action up the mountain, up the mountains rather.
Yep. If you fight them in the mountains, they can't use their numbers to flank you.
Exactly. With our people like always like a couple of 100 feet behind us, and we're always kind of leading them further on. And then if we keep them at bay and injure their horses as much as possible, eventually they just won't be able to chase us. Certainly if we go further up, it's going to be lots of like narrow paths and things like that where like, because one-on-one, like Chulin will beat anybody, easily, I think, in their tribe.
So it's about narrowing the engagement, like the contact area.
And then if we kind of retreat all the way up and will their numbers whenever we can, I think eventually they just have to give up or they just start to lose more than it's worth to them. And then if we're in the mountains, we can always travel down the mountain, like across, as opposed to, like left to right, as opposed to north to south. So rather than going like across the mountain range directly, we can move along it down towards the Uyghur lands. And then like arrive at them and be like, we need help. The Zamogedi are trying to get us. We're friends of the Dalat. We were part of their tribe basically for X months and we raided with them and stuff like that.
For somebody who looks so stupid, you come up with clever plans sometimes.
He laughs at that. I don't look stupid. I look strong. Like thump his chest. What do you think, Teneka?
It's certainly preferable to going over the mountains.
There are not always ways through mountains, though. You may want to go east, and it may not be possible.
If we have to spend a week in the mountains, we can do that. And when the Zamogedi leave, we can come closer to the foothills.
Will the Zamogedi leave?
You wouldn't.
No, that's true.
Yeah, that's exactly what she's thinking. She says it in that same tone of voice and like looks at you very pointedly.
And there are things, we can't we might have to desert all our horses if we take to mountains, if we have to climb a cliff or something like that, that they just can't go up.
That would put us back to where we started.
I say we go into the mountains and take the lay of the land, and that's our hope, but we'll have to play it by ear and see what's possible when we get up there.
For someone who looks so much like a little tiny monkey, you have good ideas sometimes.
Monkeys have climbed a lot. I think I know mountains as well as any of you.
Chillin like scratches under his armpit and on top of his head at the same time, and like makes a face at Kadan.
So is it decided then to make a stand ambush here against the Zamogedi whenever they might come, and then lure them into the mountains, try and draw them south, harassing them there, and if worse comes to worse, flee across to the Uyghur?
While I do think that Sanai is a better rider than me and will find her way better along the track, I do think I'm better at hurling insults than she is, and I might be able to infuriate them as much or more.
You do have a sharp tongue.
The reason that they want Sinai is that I have killed one of their women. And they'll want her more than anything to get revenge.
And you still have 2 of them.
I'm only volunteering because I want to throw insults at them, but maybe there will come another opportunity.
Is there any hope of talking to them?
I think the time for talking is over.
Does a wolf speak to a mouse?
The wolf doesn't want to die. The wolf is a survivor. And a wolf is not talking to a mouse, it's talking to a bear.
Would the bear speak to the wolf? They outnumber us. 7, 8 to 1.
The wolf has the bear's cubs?
I
Then
think
how would they not overwhelm us?
It's just a thought.
The time for talking is well past. We slaughtered their people like goats. They will not talk.
Yeah, he sort of shrugs and is resigned. Though you can see that he wishes that there was a way to avoid another massacre.
Yeah, much like the wolf, we will use similar tactics to the wolf. We will hit hard, hit fast and hardy, and draw back. And continue to do so.
Chillin nods. It's decided.
Teneka, if you do not want me to go, then I will not. You are Khan.
It will draw them in. It will present to them an opportunity.
The biggest danger is that they kill the horse under you, Sinai. Can we do something about that?
You could have had Arslan working to knit several of the Shao shirts together to make like a barding for Sanai's horse. I think given like the wealth hoard you brought back and his skill, and the fact that you have more weapons than you have people, which means he doesn't have to be crafting that. He could do that over the past days if that's what you wish.
Yep. I mean, that's what, if I was them, I would shoot the horse right out from under.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know?
You are like dreading the storm of arrows to come, even if before it becomes a melee.
Karankan takes off, unhooks from his shoulders his moonstone disc that's hanging from him, and hands it over to Zanai. This, I've gained some extra speed. This foreign magic has given me an extra burst of speed, and if you need to run, it might give you your feet an extra spring in its stride. Wear it in case hazards, in case you fall foul to their, in case your horse falls foul to their arrows, he says, and puts it around your neck. And I'll just put up what it does on the chat.
And Sarnai kind of takes it in her hand. Thank you, Kadan.
Next day, an hour after dawn, Jebu thunders down the ridge, leaving a trail of dusty doom behind him, like a shark's fin in the steppes, pointed towards you as he rides, and you know the message he carries before he gets within shouting distance. People about you move and like put down their picks, shovels, wheelbarrows, and baskets, and look nervously between one another. And his haste spreading fear.
What have I taught you? You don't stand waiting around when there's a camp to break. Take down the I guess we've already broken the camp, or if not, they're breaking camp already. I'm shouting at them, getting them breaking camp and getting ready to go on the trails. They should be.
He rides up the mount to the Khan's Gur, and there's like this flurry of different sort of activity now. One with like manic pace breaks out. He dismounts, like jumping from the saddle with ease, and remembers himself to like kneel down on one knee before you. My Khan, they come, scores of men, mounted, shining like stars though the sun has risen. I saw those beasts sporting the antlers of reindeer. It is the Zamogedi, my Khan.
How long before they're here? Like a reckon?
And now, maybe more, my Khan, till they reach those ridges, and he points back to where people are like streaming down now towards the camp. Like your people. Under Kadan's instruct, you can hear him bellowing out as others are down below you from where you survey.
In fact, I'm not even bellowing because I've got them so tightly drilled that they all know what they're doing, and they're running from one task to another, just quickly, efficiently, stripping down the yurts, getting them loaded up on horses, and heading off. They'll be heading off in an hour, but 1 hour to do it.
And so that's all of the people who are useless to you in the fight to come. Those who can wield a bow with Tuigan and Ibuka will wait beyond, and then all of yourselves and your named warriors to perform their like preordained duties.
And there are horses
flee for the mountains.
Horses left for us, and they are.
Yeah, you have ample horses. You could have. There's so many horses in your herds, I believe, that you could have 2 each at least.
We'll have the milking mares because they can provide us with milk
in the mountains without stopping. Yep. So the old, the children and such, they all mount up on the mares, and with the foals and your mobile camp or nomadic camp begin to stream off tierly north, as those who will like stay put down their hammers and shovels and picks and now take up the tools of war. And there's like tearful goodbyes and like silent, meaningful things that pass between people as they split apart, those who will stay and those who will go. And there's that sound of children wailing, which was so much like the Zamogedi camp, but so much dreadful here and like stark by the light of the rising morning. But eventually that host begins to peel off towards the fire peaks, and people begin to take their places at your side of the Marmot Hollows or at their archers' nests atop the ridge that lines the pass through that you've laden with pitfalls. The horses, the men, the women are nervous, and the morning begins to grow hot.
I'll just throw in, maybe if somebody happened to glance in Kadan's direction as the Shao slave Chichin, is that her name? As she goes off with the others, Chenchi, he gives her a large package, a large sort of package, some sort of material wrapped in sort of just a leather, wrapped in leather and tied up, and gives her some strict instructions, just a few seconds, but some clearly slightly complicated instructions, and then sends her off with a package.
She'll nod and recite the orders to you and look fearfully to those that she'll join in fleeing, wondering who her next master might be. But she'll go off with the package and the orders remembered and wonder if she'll see you again.
And then I'll lead the archers up to the vantage points and we'll hide.
Sana, I imagine you're with the other of the best riders at the foot of the ridge to provoke the enemy coming?
Yes, she is. Yeah, go upstairs. I'm sorry. Yes, she's there, and although she would never admit fear to any of her brothers, at the report of the shining warriors, she is a little afraid.
Tuigan has a bow slung about her back and will move to apply the last layers of your arms and check the biting of your horse as it whinnicks and stamps beneath you. And she seems to have adopted quite a stern and severe demeanor to hide or suppress her own rising bile-like fear. Next to her, Ibaka has a red sash that she's bound around her hand to make safe fast the dagger that's been put there, and she's shaking nervously like a tree in a storm as the other men mount up and ride near to you, ready to escort you out across the Marmot Hollows. You can see Teneka and Chulun there with the other men who are moving towards their places on this side of the hollows.
Sarnai wishes for Kadan's chatter to take her mind off the battle and the chase that is to come, but instead tries to simply think of only the steps, only the ground in front of her horse, to go back through the path one more time in her mind as she even guides her horse along it now. All will be well, she tells herself. Perhaps lying.
Korodai and Beyontu and Osun checking themselves a final time will fall in with you as you leave your men and brothers with those parting words and ride out in a thin file across the hollows, waiting to meet the enemy. As Chulun readies himself with his bow in his position nearby to Sane's bait, where will you start the, or find yourself at the battle start, Teneka?
So we've got Kadan off to the side with those archers, Sane going in, and Chulun covering there, so I guess Teneka's place is in front. Trying to think who else would be around about there.
Geren,
Yeah.
Aslan, Tokugana, Ibuka. Jebu is up with Karan on the ridge, Keen Archer.
Yeah, so I guess that would put him in between everybody.
Mm-hmm. Everyone who's like at the rear, ready to fight.
Yep.
You're in the front of their midst, some half a dozen. A few shaking old men and young boys with like hunting bows near Ibuka and Tokugana and the others, all trying to like summon the strength to suppress their rising fear.
And as though Sanai may not be able to hear him, Kadam is yabbering on in his usual way to the old and the scared, and he starts one of the traditional stories of the Tarn. Hear of the horse lords of days gone by and the Khans that ruled them with courage and cunning. We know of those princes' profitable campaigns. There was Yamon the Golden, gatherer of the tribes, a wrecker of Kumis benches, rampaging among foes. That terror of the Ordu had come far. An outcast to start with, he would climb later on when his powers waxed and his worth was proved. In the end, each tribe of the Tuigan plains along the Goldway was made to give to him a king's tribute. He was the Khan among Khans, and he goes on to tell them about the sort of raids and successes of Yaman the Golden to sort of to divert their minds from their fears and to inspire them for the upcoming battle.
Eager to be diverted, people will begin like taking up almost these like feral cries and curses and cheers at what your words evoke and allow them to transcend. Like shaking axes, spears, curved blades, and bows like high into the air and calling out, all adopting the wolf call of Chulun from his rocky perch. And it unsettles the horses underneath and about you, Sanai, as you see the enemy, like a flood of silver, begin to peel over the ridge beyond. Great whale goes up between them at the side of their Khana, bound to a rock, broke-backed and picked at by birds. The insult is one of blinding anguish, you imagine, by the sound that comes from them. A single rider like dismounts and goes to the rock. You see his figure, like a silhouette cut across the grey-blue horizon, goes and cuts free the woman and takes her into the midst of the horsemen, and horns begin to blare. From your vantage up here, Karan, yourself and Jebu would be the first to notice that the host, three score strong, breaks into two parts. 40 men form a great wedge that begins to slowly rattle its way down the side of the ridge and into the Marmot Hollows Pass, where 4 horsemen futilely look to stop their approach. The other 20 begin to skirt around the northeastern side of the ridge across from yourself and Jebu. And fear strikes you as you realize their ploy, that they're not there to engage at all, but will come around to the rear of the Marmot Hollows and cut off the retreat from the plains that the enemy, obviously from this maneuver, fears. They disappear from like sight, though you know where they are and can mark them. The other enemy I mentioned, the previous one, well within your shot, as you see this great triangle of steel form up and begin to move, first at a walk, then a trot, a canter, and into the final parts a gallop, angling down towards where these 4 heavy armored riders under Sanai await. Around you, you can see like pebbles shaking and hear like dirt shifting and dust go up, making you squint like the other men, Sanai, as you sweat and shake, half from fear and half from the host of thundering horsemen that pours down towards you.
When she feels that they've marked her, she turns her horse, causes it to rear, and lets out a mighty howl, and they ride.
You turn your backs, and the thunder of your horse, twinned with the severe beating of your heart, makes you deaf to the steel wasps that begin to like rain down. One like sprouts itself below the ear of your horse, thunking down between the chain links Aslan had put there, and hot blood like wells up and spills across your own face, shocking you for a moment before arrows begin to whip and dart around you. You see one of the men next to you go sidelong, arrows sprouted in his back, and his horse pulled into one of the hollows, both its front legs just distend at unholy angles and spill him free as you and the others thunder towards the preordained place where you can see the other forces gathering around Teneka. I'm going to need a DC 16 dex save from you, please. And you'll need to make one for your horse as well.
Uh, 18 on the die for the horse, and I had a 15 on the die, and I'm just checking to see. +2. Okay, I'm good. 17.
So arrows whip and dart, and you can see them like landing in front of you and before you on the trail, though you feel no lightning strike of agony. You are not struck, though one of the men with you was. At this, looking over your shoulder, you can see the triangle narrow as it approaches the narrower pass, like adopting its formation slightly to the situation as they begin to pour across the prepared fields. And that's when a high-pitched symphony of shrieks goes up that cuts across that of the thundering horses. So their broke-legged screams and wails as the first ranks of men are thrown from saddles as their horses upend like your own rider did. Not arrows or spears felling them, but the holes and traps beneath. The horses at such pace can do nothing but ride headlong into those places, and near a score of men are thrown as most of those the mounts are killed or maimed forever. This great, like, horrible sight goes up before you, Chulun, as your own heart beats, seemingly increasingly so, as Sano like belts in with the other men closer to your lines here. And even though arrows fall around them and one man falls by Yontu to be struck by several more arrows, the others, along with your sister, ride in through your parted lines, and the battle will soon be joined. You can see beyond men garbed in like steel or with boiled leather coats down the front of their horses' withers, trying to leap over their companions, and like in disjointed, like drunk, weird, newborn fashion, they're like trying to navigate around each other in their like dying, wounded pleas, or the kicks and manic acts of the broke-legged horses just makes chaos of the chaotic field, and horns blare behind them, urging those around to make their own paths and push on through, given the line is committed to. At that horn blast, you mark 3 riders beyond the triangle, bringing up its rear, navigating their way down the ridge and towards this scene of horror, where a great many of their warriors have just been killed by the earth beneath them. And it's then that your own arrows begin to fly. You can see Kadan and Jebu firing down from the ridge above, and Tokugano, Buka, and the others who have bows here begin to fire their own steel wasps into the shrieking mass of horse flesh and steel-garbed men beyond. And for some time, it's a pheasant shoot, as this like unwieldy mass is just shot at indiscriminately from a height and from angles, while they navigate this treacherous ground you've laid.
Yeah, Chillen will just be like howling, and he'll move his way kind of to where the gap is, or in that direction, so that when people start to get through, he'll be the first thing in their way. He like twists the ring, and his skin will turn to stone, but he's just like firing indiscriminately into the pile. And he's trying to kill men once horses are down as much as possible, because he knows that's really what's going to save them. He's just howling over and over again.
The longer it takes for the enemy beyond to compensate for the pitfalls of their field, the longer you can shoot at them, and a great many horses go down. But several arrows, unfortunately, that find their mark in men, their lives are saved by the armor they sport, whether it be of Shao make or stolen Tuigan gear. It takes some time, half a quiver or so, by the time that the triangle is like reformed upon the causeway that you'd left in your plans, Karan, and slowly begin to navigate their way across, urging themselves up into a gallop. If not for the insult you'd sprung at them, you doubt they would pursue you so hard-pressed through this field. But their fear cannot be reckoned with, and they cannot see reason as they reform to try the exact same tactic again, a smaller triangle though, this time some 20 plus strong. It forms a mock wedge and will eventually like smash into your own line, Chulun, where you stand at the fore of next to your brother. There were a great many horses and men shot or cut down before they reach that line. And I'm going to get you guys to all roll initiative now. Chulun, you can like feel your like muscles crystallize as the magic courses through your veins and turns your extremities first dark and then like a grey color as a stony film encases you. And you feel like the surge and strength that provides, emboldening you as the wedge closes. You can hear like arrows whipping past you from your own ranks into them beyond, the shriek of horse flesh, but most of all, the thundering of the hooves as they angle closer towards you, mimicking your heart in the final seconds before cataclysmic clash. It appears as my overlay to you with a Zamogedi lancer at the front of like an armored wedge to drive in and break a hole and allow the mounted swordsman behind to pour into your ranks.
So Chulun knows that like they're going to be packed tightly together, and that if you can stop one of them, you might be able to stop many of them. And so like with skin made of stone and this like impossible weight and strength, his attempt is going to be to like basically like try and kick the leg of the horse as it runs. Now normally this would break his shin, but it's currently made of stone, and so he's going to try and basically kick the leg from under the horse. And probably get crushed to death, but we'll see. First one is a 9 plus 7, so 16. Second one is a miss.
This is against a horse, so it hits.
Yeah. Third one is 20, yeah, so hit. And the fourth is 18, so that'll hit also. So it's 3.
26 damage to the horse?
No, sorry, I haven't done damage yet.
Okay.
It's going to be... It is going to be 24 damage, though. That's from 3 hits.
So you rush forward. This is to meet the lancer at the tip of the wedge, the vanguard. Yep. So you like crash into the front of his horse and bust both its legs. It sends the horse up from like the rear and spills the rider free, who fails his deck save and lands adjacent to your right, prone with a crunch in his armored suit, thunking down into like the dusty worked soil.
Yeah, perfect. So then like moves forward and kind of does one of those like kung fu shoulder block into like the chest of the horse, and then just like cracks out with his leg and like manages to break those legs thanks to the magic of this ring. And you can hear just this like of people stomping all around him. But he's focused on this one man and his horse for now.
And the tide of mounted steel just washes over you, and the great cacophony of slaughter begins. Can I get you to roll a d20, please, sir?
Sweeten me. 7.
Behind you, Ibuka gives a shriek of fear. It's horrendous, and she flees the chaos. It's at this point, as you realize yourself in the nexus of the slaughter storm, that fear begins to gnaw most strongly at you. You must suppress it. With a wisdom save, DC 13, please, my lord, or become frightened till the end of your next turn.
He's not intelligent, but he's surprisingly wise, and he succeeds.
Gathers his courage, and the onslaught begins. The Zamogedi lancer, like coughing, winded, groaning as horses thunder around him and lines clash and swords begin to cut into men. He'll rise groggily like a drunkard. I'm going to say that he lost his lance being dismounted in that fashion because it's such a long, unwieldy thing. So he'll just draw his knife with one hand, reach for your collar with his other, and try and shiv you twice in the belly, sir. But the stone belly rebuffs both, like with a scraping as he like presses with you close enough to smell the arak thick on his breath. Close as lovers.
He definitely couldn't expect that, and I think like that's what saved children more than once, is that like no one expects this man to be made of actual stone, and children will just like it's not even a smile because it's too serious a situation, but more like a snarl or a howl.
You see the enemy like split into your own ranks below. Cut on as you turn your bow and arrows and Jebo's attention from those beleaguered men wounded by the hollows and traps to those who are engaging your own men. You see Chulun sprint and then turn into stone and smash into a horse, killing it, knocking down the rider and ready to engage him as others spill all about. The slain horse he left kicking about upends another warrior and just causes like a domino effect of further chaos as like blood spray ensues, mingled with the dust. Not so much that you and Jebo cannot take your shots indiscriminately. What do you wish to do?
Kadan goes and targets, sees a bow youth dismounted, approaching them and readying his bow, and he thinks he'll try and take him out. Now, has he managed to hide from them?
You would have at first, like when you were first firing down into the mass, but I hand waved that because I think
so
conclusion. But you no longer do. They know you're up there, but they're not even responding to you because you're two archers, and if they kill the Khan, they win the battle. So you're given free reign, as boring as that is, but that's what I think they would do. They'd ignore two archers.
Yeah, but we're not getting a surprise or anything like that.
I've already factored that in for what losses I've done to the enemy.
Okay,
like what this has become a challenge now, though. From what before I thought was being successful plans.
I strike my arrow strikes the guy for 16 points damage. The dismounted youth bow.
Sorry, how much was the damage all up for him?
16.
16. Is that in one hit, sir?
Yep.
Roll a d10, please.
Then I get a 2.
So he manages to roll free of his dying horse, go and clutch up the bow and arrows of a dead man, nocks an arrow and fire it and miss and draw a second before an arrow strikes him in the back of the neck from the ridge up above, and he falls forward face down into the dirt, slain, or not slain, but bleeding out. And that means your quiver now has 14 arrows left in it when you go to pull the next one free. Jebo, after you, will fire down into the mass.
Do I roll for Jebe or not?
No, I'll just factor in your forces against theirs from what I think, so we don't bog down the initiative with semi-mass combat. After Kadan, at the end of your turn, I'm going to spare you from the battlefield effects because you're up isolated and free of the melee. So for now, the dismounted bow youth just looks out trying to rise, but the strength flees him and everything goes white. Teneka, you're the next to act as the tide of steel clashes into your own lines. You see the dismounted Zamogedi lancer before you, fighting with your brother, and all around you other men, some mounted, others not, clash into each other. It's easy to distinguish your men from the enemy. Several of them sport Shao helms with like crimson plumes. Others sport long black iron-tipped lances that your own folk have scant of. Even despite the chaos and disorder, you can still discern what you need in this moment.
And seeing Chilling in the thick of it, there's no surprise, and I'm confident he can take care of himself against the foe that he's up against. But I imagine the kind of spearman is nearby, and seeing him in the danger he poses with such a reach weapon, especially if he's behind Chilling or off to the side, I'll focus my arrow on him and let him two fly in quick succession for a 25 and a 19.
And they both hit. He's like charging with like the spirit gut level after his own horse has been killed out from underneath him, and he's just screaming in like grief and rage as he runs forward. But it's cut short by a thunk, thunk, concussive blasts almost like in his chest as both arrows find their mark. What's the damage?
First arrow was 16, the second one was 14, so 30 all up.
Blood spills out from his mouth down over into his wispy beard, and though he stumbles to his knees, he gets back up and keeps charging in, though he's gravely wounded, nearly slain. Sanai, Osun and Korodai next to you are like dismounting from their horses and pulling the shields from the sides of their saddle horns and rushing towards the line, calling out "Teneka, Teneka" as they rush in to try and stem the tide of mounted steel pouring in. Arrows are flying thick, both from the enemy about you and from your own men up on the ridge. What do you do?
Sarnai will take the horse, wheel it about, and I'm assuming that some of these men are starting to break through. And so she'll ride upon one that's on the edge of this fray as he's bearing down on one of her brothers, perhaps Chulun. And I have a 15 to hit the first, and a 24 to hit the second.
The 15 is caught upon the enraged widower's shield, but the second attack is a certain hit.
9 damage.
And he was one who's very bloodied. He like clashes into you as you like rush to join in to the line, and you deal him a mighty wound. From the blood that spills from his nose and mouth, this man is doomed, but fights on his feet with some rage hidden beneath. The next strike will almost certainly knock him down. He is simply dead, but does not know it, and inertia is carrying him on in this brutal instant.
Excellent. And if she has any movement left, she'll swing around so that she's getting closer to Chulun, and just angling herself towards her brother so that they can fight side by side. Is Teneka down on the bottom? I'm still unclear on that, or is he up on the ridge shooting?
No, I believe he's in the middle of your main troops who are now engaged in melee with the charge. Is that right,
Okay.
Chex?
Yeah.
Firing from like the second line or something.
Yeah, well, in my mind, Chilun is basically in front of where Teneka is.
A stone moving boulder of punches and kicks to guard you while you fire into the enemy at close range.
Yeah, Chulun's fine. She'll head towards Teneka.
Okay. Certainly. You can do so still mounted, right? Are you mounted or are you dismounting like the other men?
Still mounted.
You in ambush. Okay, yep. You can easily ball your way in next to Teneka, though that will put you adjacent to the, obviously, to the enraged widow spearman as well. Who gets grievously wounded. He's got 2 arrows in him and a great chunk out of his shoulder, but still fighting onwards. Can I get a D20 from you, please, Taylor?
3.
No effect for you, Chex, because you're wielding a ranged weapon, and no effect for you on that turn, Taylor. So as you like ride into this chaos, somehow, like luck would have it, there's no random arrow or errant spear or upturned horse which affects you as yet. The man with two arrows in his chest, badly wounded by Usano, will like take some revenge and stab you into the small of your back with his spear with a weak thrust. Though the spear is sharp, it's going to be an 18 to hit all up, which I assume hits. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's definitely a hit.
So you're right up next to Teneka, and a moment later, there's blinding pain from behind as a spear like thrusts into your lower back, narrowly missing the organs sitting there. There's a twist as it's pulled out, causing you to wrench and turn in the saddle and see this man that you rode at and most likely thought had killed, but somehow still clinging to one last shred of life, gritting his teeth even as they crack and blood spills through them as he drives the spear at you with intense hatred. The dismounted swordsman nearby to the now dismounted lancer rushes in, clambering over the top of a dead horse, and with two hands on his curved blade will try and cut you down, Chulun. Two brutal swathes, both ill-timed. The second one you catch in your stony fist and crush the blade. It shatters and sends like steel shrapnel in your face and the man's, and he reels back, rolling two natural ones in a row. He's going to use his interaction to pick up a broken lance and use it as a spear. And now you're adjacent to two foes at the front of you, sir. At the end of his turn, Urgamel Horsebreaker, who's led this vanguard, charges into the center, looks about for the wealthiest looking warrior, and sees the bowman shooting down into the mass, protected by the golem that you appear to be to him, Chulun. And being wise to it, will avoid you and charge in and try and cut the head off the snake as he sees it. Urgamel will bring his great lance to bear with both hands held on the shaft and guiding his horse, barred at the front with his knees. He will try and ride you down to Naka. It will provoke an opportunity attack from you, Chulun, because he'll have to ride through you essentially to get to your brother, but get to your brother he will. It'll also put him adjacent to you, Sano, but he won't break that adjacency, so no opportunity of attack for you.
Okay, so it's 14 plus F, so 21 to hit.
He uses his reaction to raise his AC by 2. Which means you just miss. So the armor, like the cataphractoid-like armor that he wears at the front, your stonefish like fist smashes into the front of it and dents the shoulder pauldron that does not crack anything underneath. And he like spins in the saddle, but is not knocked from it. But he's used his reaction now. And he'll do 2 attacks at you, Tanaka. The first you can step aside from, it's clumsy. The second, though, is a 19 to hit with the lance.
Yep, that'll do it.
It will be, he rolls pitiful damage. 5 piercing damage, so I imagine it grazes your bicep, cuts through and spills blood, though it does not like spear through your arm or midsection as he'd hoped. And his horse rears up at that collision, and as a free, he'll drop the lance to clatter after wounding you with it and draw a curved sword from his belt with which to hack down from now. But that's all he can do for now, bellowing out, kill, kill, to his men around him. And we'll go back to the top, and Chulun, is your turn to act. You can feel the weight of the armored horseman behind you harrying at your brother, but see before you this Zamogedi lancer, winded but still deadly, thrusting at you.
Yep, there's a lot going on. I'd have to move quite far to get to the guy who's at Teneka, would I?
Nope. You would just be turning your back to the lancer.
Okay, but not necessarily provoking impact.
Nope. You are technically adjacent to him and his horse.
Okay, perfect. So then I will turn, and I'm going to try and like smash my elbow into the shoulder blades of this man, and I'm going to try and stunning strike him.
Is this the same one that's also adjacent to me? Because you'll have advantage.
No, that's the.
Okay.
Oh, yes, sorry, it is. It is. If you're going for the Urgamel Horsebreaker, he's adjacent to Sana. Yes.
Yeah, I already rolled a crit, so I'm not going to roll with advantage. The damage won't be improved that much. It'll be 6 plus 4, so 10 damage. But he has to make a check of some kind not to get stunned. I don't have my thing handy.
It's stunning strike. It's a Constitution saving throw against your whatever it is.
Yep. So he needs to make a con save, and the DC is 30.
He rolled a 2 on the die, so he got a 9. He got a 9, but still failed.
Okay, so yeah, so he's stunned until my next turn.
Oh gosh, that's Urgamel, right?
Yeah, that's Urgamel. Then I will turn, knowing that Teneka is safe, turn back around, and I'm going to unleash my other 3 attacks on the 2 dudes in front of me. I'm going to basically hit the Lancer until he falls over. And then if
Okay. Can I get a d20 from you for the crit first?
Oh yeah. 12.
12. Ugh. How do I explain this? You punch through the boss of his shield and shatter the bones in 2 of his fingers as you like punch up at him with the stone fist. You have disadvantage on 2-handed attacks. He's lost those 2 fingers, essentially. Disadvantage on checks as well that require both hands or the fingers of this hand. If it happens again, his hand will be useless, the same crit. So you basically like ruin like 2 of the fingers on his offhand.
Nice.
Making him useless to wield that blade with 2 hands. That's it. And what was the damage all up for him? Sorry, I didn't note
10.
it. 10 damage. Okay. And then the rest of your turn is going to be at the Zamogedi Lancer.
Yeah. So that was my first attack, and I'll flurry of blows to do basically 3 more attacks. That one is a 13, which probably misses him.
Yeah, he parries it with the blade.
That one's a 22.
That's hit.
That one's even higher than that. So that's 2 hits. Oh my goodness, so that's 11 plus 8 is 19 damage. You made it, Nico.
Yeah, it bursts Xiao Link's. Oh no, you're just punching him and headbutting him, right?
Yep.
So it's just like a bonk and like sickening thuds as you like crack into him, breaking bone and rupturing organs. Some of his teeth crack as blood spews out of his mouth. He is bloodied, though that wasn't in 1 hit, so he's not shocked to the system, but he is bloodied. Since he's in the eye of the slaughter storm with you, he can't really rightly flee. With his inertia, just will continue to try and cut you down, though he's now bloodied. I need a d20 from you at the end of your turn, sir.
Yep. Whoa. Oh, it's 7, actually, not a 1. I was really worried. It's 7.
From what you thought would be a strike to kill this foe to now realize that he'll still fight on at you. Let's fear creep back in again. I need a wisdom save, please. DC 13. You'll be frightened until the end of your next turn.
15 on the die.
Yeah, you gather your courage about you like armor as this wounded foe still fights on. With his long knife, he'll try and cut you twice for a near crit for the first and a certain miss for the second. 4 piercing damage. So it like just barely manages to penetrate through the stony film and into your human flesh beneath, causing pain to see there.
Just if anyone has a magical weapon, just let me know, because otherwise I resist all like bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing.
Okay, none of the guys in this initiative list do.
Okay, sick.
The current, yeah. After the dismounted lancer, he's actually that was with a spear, right? So it would have actually been a D8 damage. So it was actually 6, not 4. Still pitiful. He'll stay where he is. Kadan, you've notched your was it 14th or 13th arrow, ready to fire down. There's still none of those forces below who are firing at you or Jebe. They've just kind of put their backs to you now.
I'm sorry, I messed up last time. I shouldn't have included my sneak damage on the guy, so he's probably okay and still up.
Right.
Do you want to do an attack against me, or?
Yeah, I think he would. Like, if he could, that youth bowman would.
From his last round, he would have got an attack off at me, probably.
What would have been the damage instead of 16?
It would have been 6.
6. Okay, so wounded but not bloodied. Yeah, he'll stop where he is and give cover to like the rear of the charge by firing up at yourself and Jebu. He'll go for you first. He'll make his both shots, and if he hits with one, he'll use Archer's Eye. It's going to be a.
Do I have cover?
Yeah, you would. Maybe not so much cover as he would have disadvantage firing up at you, actually. So I'm going to give him disadvantage. So the first one would have still been a hit, I would say. 18 all up.
Yep.
And the second was still a miss. So 1 hit and a miss. He'll use his Archer's Eye to make it a decent strike for 11 piercing damage. So a few arrows like fling up at yourself and Jebu, and one gets lucky from this wounded youth, buries itself in your thigh, causing crimson to well up there, down over your hide trousers.
Okay, then I'll loose my arrow at the one who's engaged the leader. the leader's gone down, isn't it? So hasn't he? So I'll just.
He's charged into the center, attacking Teneka.
Oh, he's
the
still
leader, you mean, like those figures who I'd mentioned at the rear? They are currently at the rear of the wedge.
Oh,
and have not engaged in melee yet.
I'll do the one who's next to Teneka attacking then.
Okay.
Hit an AC of 22. Is that enough?
Yes. It's a crit as well because he's currently stunned.
Oh.
That's paralyzed, right? It's paralyzed when it's a crit. My bad.
Yes, and I don't think it applies to melee, not to missile anyway. So it's just 15 points of damage.
An arrow, sprouts in his back as he sits stunned in the saddle, unable to react. You see that your second arrow has found its mark.
And I'll back up further towards the sort of I'll kind of climb a rock or try and get some height to try and see if I can get a bearing on if I can see any high rock or get onto a ridge so I can see the other side for where the other party of riders was sort of
By way I reckon it, to do that you're going to have to ride down your ridge across the mouth into the Marmot Hollows and then up on the other side of the other ridge to be able to look down on it to where that.
I get you. So it's not something I can do during combat. Okay.
Oh yeah, it is because you've got a horse, right? So you can potentially move 120 feet a turn. It would take you 3 turns to get to that vantage point, doing nothing but cautiously riding to that point. It's up to you.
I'll let's see. No, there are still too many standing here. I'll stay where we are at the moment. Okay.
That decision moment, because you can know that the enemy's like that hidden enemy is up to no good around there, but the shooting's so good at the moment.
By the sort of terrain and my knowledge of the land, have they had time to get round by now?
Oh no, that won't happen in this initiative round. You're familiar with the Marmot Hollows, and to ride around that ridge and avoid that approach, it's going to take I don't know, an abstract amount of time.
Yeah, it probably won't be in this combat.
Yeah,
might block us off, but they won't get hit in time to.
They might not need to, as it looks like most of the enemy now is beginning to envelop Tanaka's forces down below. You can see at a glance, or yourself and Jebo from this height, can see 19 corpses strewn across the Marmot Hollows, which from what Jebo had scouted earlier, that it was a force of 60 divided into 2 parts, 40 to 20. There's some 21 men or more currently fighting down there amongst your siblings and such.
Okay.
After you, the dismounted bow youth will move back from where the melee is, firing up at you and Jebe on the ridge. You'll fire once at Jebe and then once at you with disadvantage. You get cover from moving back from where you were, I'd say, amongst those rocks. So you can have +3 to your AC, but it's going to be a miss anyway for his arrow that he aims at you. And a miss at Jebu. I think at that he would realize the folly of it and forego the bow, picking up a spear and charge into the melee, using his movement to back up the hole that Ergamel has plunged. Then it's Teneka's turn. In the second row, there's only 2 rows in your line, so in the back row of your melee line, you can see now that Ergamel with his steed, by way of steed, is pushed in and intersected himself between you and Chulun there. And even though Chulun has stunned him up in the saddle, still is a fearsome foe before you, though unable to react until the end of his next turn. Around him, you can see a dismounted swordsman climbing over a dead horse to cut into your allies. And behind you, you can hear a swearing spearman trying to take Sanai down from her saddle. All the while arrows fly about. What do you wish to do?
He's going to pull forth his blade. In my mind, the kind of general chaos of Ergamel's horse as it kind of twists and turns in the throng. It's a roadblock to anything else he wants to do, so he's going to clear that said roadblock by attempting to take out Ergamel. Let's see. He's not stunned anymore. There's no advantage or anything on him.
No, he's still stunned. He's stunned till the end of his next turn, which isn't until the end of this round of initiative.
And that does give advantage. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, it's a non-nat 20 and a 24 to hit.
Certainly, they both hit. The non-natural 20 he can't use his reaction for because he's stunned, so it hits him.
So let's see, 7 damage and 15. So what's that all up? 23?
48.
No, 22. Sorry.
And this, bloodies him. So like stricken in the saddle with like a ruined hand that he's like pulled back after Chulun spun around and like the Hulk punched into it. Now he's wounded twice in the front by you as you like stand to contest him, and his horse like rears up, threatening to throw him. He's grievously wounded, nearly slain by the look of what wounds has been wrought.
That sounds like a good time to let out a howl. Hoping to further spook the horse and spur on my siblings. Do you want a battlefield roll?
Yes, please, sir. D20.
17 on the die.
The foe pours around you now, enveloping your forces while you contend with the one in front of you. Another strikes at your rear. You need to succeed a DC 13 intelligence save, or the next melee attack against you has advantage.
That'll be a 12.
And so you like feel like a spear thrust, like narrowly missing you, like maybe deflected off your cap or like the armor braced at your shoulders, but like it turns your attention anyway. So that the next time someone would attack you with melee, they'll do so with advantage. As the distraction is slightly split, and then it moves to Sanai's turn. Behind you, in front of you, you see this like armored, like a cataphractoid warrior contesting with your brother Khan, and behind you, this deranged like spearman, dead on his feet, who will not like stop it, trying to wound you from behind. What do you wish to do?
She has more concern for her brother than herself, and so will. Let's see. Is he in front of me, or do I have to move to get to him to take an opportunity attack?
To get to Ergobel, he's in front of
Yeah.
you 5 foot, so you provoke an opportunity of attack from the widower at your back, and that would put you adjacent to, well, you're adjacent now to Teneka, but it'd put you still adjacent to Teneka, but also adjacent to Ergomel.
Okay, I'll do that.
He'll
That's a
take a
20.
thrust then.
Yeah.
19 on the die, unfortunately.
Ouch.
So it's going to be 5 piercing damage to the back.
Also, what was the damage from the first time he hit me? I don't remember hearing that.
Neither do I. I'll roll again.
Okay.
So it's 7 piercing damage.
Okay.
7 and 5, so 12 all up.
So it's a 25 and a 15 to hit Ergomel. I'm assuming the 15 doesn't hit.
Did you roll that with advantage?
Oh,
He's
is
stunned.
he's still stunned? Okay.
His turn is after, like, he's still got 2 more turns till he's, like, in the initiative order till he is recovered.
Okay, so the second one will be a hit. That'll be a 23.
Yeah, they both hit.
So that's going to be... What was I doing with that? 16 damage all up.
Describe his death.
Sarnai, even with the spear striking at her from behind, comes around with the curved blade in her hand, and as this Ergomel horsebreaker is engaged with Teneka, she will strike out at where his neck meets his shoulder and do her best Chulun interpretation of attempting to behead him. It doesn't quite work, but it's enough.
His head peels sidelong, exposing like the spinal fluid and such before he promptly like slumps from the saddle down into the mire of writhing wounded men. And his horse rears up, finer steed than any that you have in the Khanate. A broad beast of the west that's corded chest is covered in a chain shirt, not too dissimilar from the one Aslan's fashioned for your own beast. And Ergomel like slumps down before you. Teneka, as the center of this host and its leadership here, is taken down with him. the end of your turn, Sane, I'll need a d20, please. Unless there's anything else you're doing, I assume you're staying next to Teneka, but
Yeah,
you still
staying
have
next to
movement left.
Teneka.
And okay, so d20,
11.
please. Arrows rain down around you from those men who charged in with bows. Deck save DC 13, please.
No. That's
You
a
take
7.
9 piercing damage as an arrow takes you in the shoulder just like seconds after you've felled Ergamel. It's like thunk, strikes into you and nearly drives you from the saddle. And you see this in your periphery, Tanaka. That spearman from behind now will move up and drive his spear tip into the belly, like the rear belly of your horse, trying to bring you down with it, Sano. So I'm gonna say
I'll redirect that attack to me if I can.
Okay.
If I can see him out of the corner of my eye, I'll try and kick my leg out.
It'll be a 14 to hit, which I assume misses your AC.
My AC is actually 14 exactly.
Ooh, okay. And that will be 7 piercing damage. So he tries to drive the spear tip into the belly of your horse, but you spin around and it hits your own leg instead, slashing down the side, like unzipping the side of your calf. And he'll stay right where he is. The dismounted swordsman will clamber over a dying Ergamel to try and cut you down, Teneka, and earn glory for himself in the eyes of his Khan. He swipes once and it's clumsy. The second he trips in guts, and his sword thrust is such that you smash down into his wrist and he drops it. He'll clutch. What's that?
Just to remind you, I think one of those attacks should have been at advantage.
Oh, the first, yeah. It's a crit, man.
No.
That's what you get for being honest.
Yeah, good on ya. I bet you now it'll be actually extra brutal. D20, please.
It has to be, doesn't it?
So a crit and then a crit fail. This guy gets.
It's a 2 on the D20.
Oh, no.
Which doesn't sound good, does it?
Oh, man. It's
Oh, my God. Are you about to die?
Can you roll a... I need a D2, 1 or a 2, or an odds or an even.
I'll let the D4 decide there. Even.
Oh, okay. So that strike goes through the back side of your palm and out the front. It's enough to stop it from going into your face where it was aimed, but it's stabbed through your hand. It's ruined that hand. For roll 3d4.
1, 4, 8.
8 weeks it will take till you can use your offhand properly. And you're lucky it wasn't bludgeoning damage, because then you'd have to roll a DC 15 con save for it to not be crushed permanently. So he puts a blade through, all the way through your hand, gives it a twist and rips it out. It's ruined for now and will be useless for 8 weeks, your offhand, which means no firing your bow right now.
Yep.
And then when he strikes out with the second and misses, you bring your boot down and his weapon is dropped into the mire of guts, forcing him to pick up a shattered spear. That's where he'll end his putrid turn. Ergamel gargles his last and drowns in blood as he looks up at the morning sky. Chulun, you're awash with hot blood, a hot fury, and the hot sun beams down upon you. What do you do?
I'm going to have to take down this Lante at long last. I think he still stands. So
bloodied but standing. Winded but fighting on.
Okay. First one is a 17. Will that hit him?
17 hits.
Okay.
That's a
then
magic number.
Spend a key point to stun him. So he has to make a save. Wisdom save, DC 13.
Oh, he gets a 17 on the die, so that gives him a 16. All up.
Then I will just try and punch him lots of times. 16 plus 7 will hit. That's a crit. And a big miss. So a hit and a crit. Um, 5 and 8 is 13, plus 8 is 21 damage.
That is one more than necessary, one more that the gods ordained for him. By way of abstract health, you can describe his demise, my lord.
Yeah, so he'll grab like the whatever the chain and scale that he wears, and like put his foot behind this man's foot and like trip him down into the ground. And then as he goes down, he's going to basically like take his elbow up over and like smash it down into this man's face like twice on the ground until he's no longer moving. And then we'll like stand back up and howl.
You exult in the kill, howling up. It's taken up by others in amongst the slaughter storm. And you see at the end of your exultation this blood-faced youth, an arrow in his back, charging towards you with like an impaling leveled spear. I'll need you to roll d20 at the end of your turn, sir, for the shit sting table.
Yes, sir. A 16.
Yaltangri owns you all. The fearless cry of the foe sends worried ripples through your own line. I need a charisma save, DC 13, my lord.
Oh boy.
You'll be seized by that fear that's been gnawing you every turn since the start of this combat.
Finally, it gets him. Yep.
Yeah, you like exult in this kill and the blood spray, but looking around, you can see your own folk have not fared so well, and those who aren't your siblings and like inspired with the blood of the true wolves are being beaten down or slaughtered, and the lines are crumpling. And you see is like even though the numbers are dwindling of the enemy, they still exceed your own, and they've begun to envelop around and trap you here. At least you don't know that it's going to get worse by way of the enemy coming in from the rear. But for now, that fear is enough to grip you, and you'll be have the frightened condition till the end of your next turn, which means disadvantage on attacks. And then at the end of your turn, the Zamogedi Lancer will choke on his own broken teeth and shattered throat. Khadan, you watch down below as the leader of the vanguard is cut down by Sinai and Teneka, and now your stone brother, who stands at the fore of your forces, is about to be engaged by the quarry you've been shooting. Beyond him, you can see that others still harry against your brother and sister beyond, and that the enemy cavalry have begun now to swarm around your tiny force.
Kadangan is sort of making his way down closer, jumping from rock to rock, approaching them, but he lets out an arrow at one of the at the spearmen, but it just flies past him.
Yeah, it's quite a distance now, and so that arrow flies wider than that.
Have they been riding away at the time? Have I? Or
didn't you move back up amongst the rocks? I thought you were the one who moved further away for cover.
Yep. Last time I did. So yes, I'm moving.
I wasn't any mechanical change. I just said that as detail, like as a fluff.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
So he curses, taking a shot too fast, and carries on hurrying down towards them.
By horse?
No, on foot. He's faster in rocks than on horse.
The dismounted bow youth with a broken lance in hand will charge with both hands, try and thrust it into your belly, Chulun, even as you exult in your bloody temporary victory. It's nearly a crit. It's 19 on the dice, so 23 to hit.
That hits.
It will be 9 piercing damage as it grinds off hip bone and then shears into the skin at the side of your belly. Cuts through the stone and brings you pain, and close to close with this youth. I guess he's probably of an age of you, maybe a little less, but much scrawnier, more malnourished, but probably equally exhausted and equaled with fear. Teneka, you're the next to act as you see this engagement in front of you, and that of like Sana and the others behind you. You can see, as explained to Chulun now, the enemy now have begun to swarm around you, like trapping your forces down here.
No, it's got to be the what's his face that picked up the spear.
The swordsman.
Yeah, swordsman. Yeah, so sucking in the battle fetid air, so his front teeth against the pain that's been wrought in his hand. He recognises that there's a do or die moment to come here, so slashing his blade forward before this Zamogedi warrior can properly heft this spear. that he's grasped. First attack will be a 24 to hit, which I imagine will do it.
Cuts through the hide shirt that he wears and bursts the shell links that protect his vitals.
The second attack's badly timed though. Probably only succeeding to slap the flat of the blade against him. That's only a 6. But the damage for the first will be 11.
A painful wound, though it does not bloody him nor stop him as he tries to thrust at you with his newly begotten weapon. Blood like spills too freely from your hand, and the pain is like a hot fire in between your knuckles. And I think that pain seizes you for a moment, and in that moment, I'll need you to roll a d20 on the battlefield effects table, please.
Yep, I forgot that. 3.
3. No effect this round, though you stand in the eye of the slaughter storm. Danger washes around you. Does not find you yet. Then it is Sanai's turn. Behind you, still mounted, now with a spear in the back of your calf.
So she will first turn and try and strike into this spearman who has plagued her so. I'm assuming a 26 will hit. For shoot, I could do math. 17. No, not 7. 7 damage.
He's on 1 hit point, so you can describe his demise.
Yeah, it's not a pretty strike. It's more rage and pain-filled than anything. As she turns back to him, and the blade cuts across his chest, exposing the organs within.
He reels back, a cry cut short from his own brutalizing down into the writhing men. No foe currently adjacent to you, though several around harrying your beleaguered forces. You can't see Ibika. She's certainly trampled underfoot here. The Tuigan fights on, even though a flap of her forehead hangs over one eye.
Yeah, Sarnai will howl again and move the horse to another enemy to make another attack. To whomever is near.
You can see the dismounted swordsman, who now actually has a spear, attacking your brother who's next to you, and you could easily, with the movement of your horse and force, push your way into a flanking position on him.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you could ride through beyond that and help Chulun.
I'll start with Teneka and
Okay.
help Chulun later. That's a non-natural 20 to hit him.
That hits.
And 12 damage.
He's bloodied now as you hack down from behind, and he realizes his predicament, trapped between the two warriors.
All right, that's it for me.
D20, please.
6.
As you make the last strike into that dismounted swordsman, he brings up the haft of his spear, and your blade shears up the side of it, such that you're pressed. You, he, and Teneka locked in this violent press. With the locked blades between you and he, you'll need to make a strength save, DC 13, or be disarmed of that sword you dealt him damage with.
Ooh. 18 on the die.
Nice. He was going to pick that up. You managed to grip hold of it even as his own blood spills down and makes the handle slickened, and suffer no ill effects for now. The enraged widower he's just clutching at his ruined chest and dies, trampled over by another armored companion. The swordsman, badly beset now and flanked, I think would make a morale check, which is a crit. So he'll stay and fight on for his Khan, and aiming at your left side, Teneka, try and get the odds back in his favor so he can turn on Sanai, and he'll try and cut you down at your more weakened left side if he's able. It's going to be a miss for the first thrust and a 16 for the second.
16 is a magic number.
Okay, so you easily parry the second, but the first, but the second is a wily strike, and you'll take 7 piercing damage then.
Sorry, what was the damage?
7 piercing damage.
7, okay.
Through the left side. And he'll end his turn where he is gathering his courage, maybe even superhuman courage with that crit. Urgamel is slain, so now it moves to you, Chulun.
Chulun is starting to feel the fear, and he looks around and kind of sees that, or like to his perception now, that it's all going wrong and that everything is bad and frightening. So I don't think you can still attack right when you're frightened. You just can't move towards Batty.
All attacks are at disadvantage.
All attacks are at disadvantage, and you can't move towards the source of your fear. Because the source of your fear is the melee, I'm just going to say your movement is 0 at the moment while you have foes adjacent to you.
Okay. There is the swordsman again adjacent to me, right?
The dismounted bow youth who had adopted a shattered lance, I think, was adjacent to your front.
Okay.
Yep, the youth bowman. That's right.
Okay. Well, I'll try and bash him then. So disadvantage. I'm frightened. 9 + 7 is 16 for the first. And
It's a certain hit.
6 + 7 is not going to hit.
13.
13.
Yeah, that just misses.
Okay. Still good. 10 damage.
He's bloodied now with the arrow in his back, and now this like stone punch to the chest that caves in a couple of ribs. He spits blood. He's bloodied.
I'll use my bonus action to... Oh, no, I don't have enough key points. I'll do nothing. That's it.
Okay. D20, please, sir.
Uh, 11. You're muted, Nico.
Oh, sorry, sir. I was yabbering away there. I need a DC 13 deck save from you as more enemy arrows rain down.
Yeah, way over.
Nice. So they all avoid you. Cut undone. Your turn is next as you're like riding down the ridge now towards where the Marmot Hollow is strewn with corpses and broke-legged horses.
Thinking that I think that my my brothers and sisters seem to have got the best of the major enemies, and they should be able to break out if they try. I'm gonna Jebe, follow me, and I'm gonna spur the horse toward over the bottom of the hollows up to the ridge on the other side. That's my destination.
Okay. He'll take a final parting shot down into the enemy ranks and then felling a rider and then follow on after you, skirting the ridges while there's slaughter off to your right.
I'll try the same as well.
Okay.
So, but yes, it's a last minute thing and it misses. So I'm down to 10 arrows.
Okay. Dismounted bow youth will try and still impale you despite his... Actually, he's bloodied, so he needs to make a morale check, which he fails. So he's frightened as he fights you, which makes sense because you're huge and muscly and have stone skin. So he's going to make his attacks at disadvantage because he only gets a multi-attack with the bow. Disadvantage will be you avoid a crit, and he gets a 3 on the die. So it's a clumsy strike in his wounded state as you like step aside and swat it with your stony forearm. And his strike is wide. He's frightened. Teneka, you're the next to act.
Okay, who still got those? What's this initiative list?
Dismounted swordsman is slashing at your front, and beyond you at his rear is Chulun fighting with the dismounted bow youth. And then your own forces fighting against the horsemen around, of which you can see a dozen or more enemies still. But it looks like they're starting to not break, but like fear's creeping in at them, as you can tell by the look of the dismounted bow youth and the dismounted swordsman that you've been harrying.
Okay.
So many of their numbers have fallen in the charge.
Just trying to think what I'm going to do here. Right. Yeah, I'll keep on at the swordsman. The first attack's going to miss for a 12. The second one is a 19, no?
Yeah, that's more than you need.
So
try and deflect it with the butt of the spear, but it just exposes his midsection. You can rip your blade across him.
I got distracted by a cat. Didn't pre-roll this time.
It's all good.
8, 19 damage.
It slits open the chain links there, as well as the fur and packed wool, and his belly skin beneath. His guts begin to spill out over him, and he drops his weapon to clutch at them and double over forward, like mewling, like a horrible sound beneath you. You like turn away from as he dies.
Is there? I assume, but you can clarify or correct me rather. There might be errant horses in this melee.
Absolutely, there's riderless horses.
Because that's if I've got movement left, my ideal plan is to grab one and leap upon it.
Urgamel's Shouth, Warmblood, is before you, garbed in barding. You can swing up on top of it.
Perfect.
A well-trained horse, given its Urgamel Horsebreakers, or was Urgamel Horsebreakers.
Does that use up all my movement?
Half your movement because it was adjacent to you.
I'll use the other half to start heading towards where our forces are, where they're being hemmed in by the outriders. Basically, on the next turn, to try and break through, so it gives them a chance to run out and get away.
Yeah, with half the movement of your beast, 30 foot, it can put you free of the melee, which will garner the attention of a few of those riders who had enveloped your horses, obviously seeing you as the prime target. So that serves your allies by alleviating some of their pressure. As you ride free of the slaughter, I'll still need a d20, please, sir.
Oh, shit, yeah.
And then Sana, it's your turn to act.
12 on the d20.
12 will be a surge. The enemy surges forth, clattering after you. Hold your ground or be pushed back further. Make a strength save, DC 13, please, or be knocked 10 feet by the next melee attack that would hit you. Pushed back 10 feet.
14 plus 2, 16.
Okay, cool. Actually, that'd be pretty bad if you're trying to flee on horseback to be knocked 10 feet. So that's a good save. Someone tries to swing at you with the butt of a halberd or a glaive as you ride past, but you're savvy to it and they miss. And you surge on, breaking free of the irregular ring of melee. And now it's Sane's turn to act. Behind you, you can see your Khan brother break through the enemy ring of mounted steel around you of some dozen riders or so, the rest having been slain or are wounded between the start of the Marmot Hollows and where you currently sit in your saddle. Beyond you, the other way, you can see Chulun battling with a blood-faced youth, while the rest of your beleaguered forces fight desperately with those wounded and arrow-strewn riders who are harrying you all around.
Do I still see Torkagana?
She still lives, fighting on, screaming like a banshee, even though she's blind from the blood from her torn scalp.
Sarnai will spur the mount on, and I'd like to use an action to reach down to Torkagana and pull the horse and pull her up onto the horse with me, and follow Teneka away from the fray.
Certainly, you can do so. Roll a d20, please.
12.
The same dismounted lancer will try and that had taken a swing at your brother will swing at you as you try and flee with the butt of his glaive. So I'll need a strength save, DC 13, please.
10.
So the next melee attack that will hit you will push you back 10 feet.
Okay.
Pretty handy considering you just fled from the melee. The enraged widower is dead. He cut his chest open. Dismounted swordsman was felled by Teneka. So to Urgamel. So Chulun, it goes back to you. You can hear the call go up from your brother as people begin to mount up and ride and push through the melee here. And the second phase begins.
Yeah, I think he wants to make sure they get away. I can move again. I'm not frightened anymore, am I? Just one turn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So maybe there's a little bit of clarity as some of the enemy goes down and he gets that bit of air. But look around and I guess he'll run with the rest of them. There must be horses somewhere near. Might pick up half a lance, or if there's a full spear, pick one up and then jump onto the back of a horse nearby and begin following the rest of them.
You can do so, but we'll provoke an opportunity of attack from the youth who was fighting you.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of this youth.
Frightened as he is, yeah, it's a certain miss. He strikes out the spear, but you're too quick and you're gone. You can track down like a manic horse that's rearing up, and with your strength overpower it and sit yourself on top, pluck out the spear from a dying man's belly, and yeah.
Yeah, he'll howl. It's sort of a more mournful one, a different signal, but a signal nonetheless.
D20, please, sir.
19.
Dex save, DC 13, please.
19 on the die, so 27 or something.
A man nearby's head is cloven in two by an axe, and his brains and blood spatter your own face, but they do not wash down your throat and stifle off the defiant. Oh, he right on. Graham. After that, it's going to move to Karandan. You've ridden across the top of the other ridge now and can see the enemy of 20 or so skirting around the ridge, curving off with like the curvature of those foothills, using it to cover itself from those in the Marmot Hollows. As unaware of like the slaughter that's been dealt to its force that charged down the front, as your own forces are ignorant of this flanking force curving around the ridge. What do you do?
Are they just a quick question? Just judging by them, are they coming for us, or are they going to go after the wolves that had fled in the earlier?
Make an insight check.
Let's see. That's I'm not sure. There's dust in my eyes or something.
Yeah, you make up your own mind. You're not sure of their intent, but it's obvious they're not moving to engage in the Marmot Hollow.
I'm just heading towards the if there's a obvious path or route up, I'll be scanning the ridges for any big rocks above the pack, above that track to aim for cover, and sort of if there's any loose-looking rocks, that'd be good as well.
Yeah, certainly you can do that, because so you're like kiting their force along the ridge, keeping sight of it, and looking out for loose stones to pry away.
Yep.
Okay, sure. After Karan, it will go to the dismounted bow youth can't even chase after you. You're too fast, Lloyd. So it'll move to Teneka's turn. You can see behind you your brother and sister and those forces that are able, getting up into the saddle and breaking free, following after you, while the wounded and stricken and surprised forces of the Zamogedi that are still left in your melee fight to concentrate and reform for pursuit.
I mean, at this point, I would really like to fire my bow. Unfortunately, that's just not going to be an option, is it? All I can do is mournfully ride away. Yeah, that's pretty much it. How many of our people are still in the melee?
I've been checked the list here. Tuigan is up with Sanai. Geren is mounting up behind Chulun and will follow him. Aslan as well is running free to join with Osun, who's helping his father up on the back of his horse. Jegu, you know to be up with Karandan. Ogeli, Bayantu, and Korodai all are slain now. Those men who had come over from Vulture's side. Bayantu and Korodai killed in the melee either side of Sanai. You have so few people that it's easy enough for those that still live to get away.
How many do we think we have killed of the Zamogedi?
You have killed 27 of the 40 that charged at you.
Okay. Pretty reasonable.
between yourselves and the trap so far. So they have 13 wounded riders. Not all of them are riders. Half of them are dismounted. So yeah, six mounted wounded men, 7 dismounted wounded men in the chaos that you and your surviving forces are mounting up and fleeing from. So if they want to pursue you, they can only pursue you with equal to or less than your number, because it's 6 horses.
So then I mean, is it worth me going in there and trying to save those remaining people, or will they get away?
I think that if you leave them to their own devices, there's a good chance that more of them will be cut down in the escape. You're definitely the strongest with that stone skin and your ability to fight without weapons. That you're a better rear guard than Osun and Aslan and those others.
Yep. So Tuigan will he'll tell the guy who was with him to go, and he will spur his horse in that direction. He's just gonna jump into the middle of it and stand there and tell the rest to flee, and he can hold them off, and he can run as fast as a horse. So
sprinting back into the tide. I imagine you running into a sprint and then jumping into the head of horses of riders that are chasing after you, or leaping into them and knocking them from saddles and pulling horses down with your stony weight, and all manner of chaos, so that those still not stricken from your allies list can make good their own escapes. I think for sake of ease, it's going to imperil you though. So I'm going to make 4 generic attacks as you hold the rear guard and absorb what damage would otherwise be dealt to those less skillful and heroic than yourselves. That's not very good. 3 damage as an arrow takes you in the side. You hardly feel it, I imagine. But for the crit, 6 damage, because I rolled 2 1s on the damage dice. D20, please, sir.
Okie 4.
4. Oh. So one of the armored guys has a Shao club that's straked on 4 sides for dinting through any kind of armor or shield and punishing bone and flesh beneath. And it hits you in the side of the head. It cracks the stony film there, and blood spills out. It would have killed you if you weren't in stone skin. You only take 6 bludgeoning damage, but for the next 3d4 weeks, which you can roll, you will suffer disadvantage on all initiative checks.
Oh no!
Sorry, disadvantage on initiative checks and all wisdom saves, as you are easily confused.
Oh no!
Yeah, like a dazing blow from a mace to your stony head, like a dung, like a church bell strike. Disadvantage on initiative, disadvantage on wisdom saves for 3d4 weeks.
Jesus. So 2, 2, and 3. Fuck. Okay, 7 weeks.
Battering down half of those half dozen riders who are set to harrying you guys, forcing them off because of your overwhelming mounted numbers now. They stay amongst their own writhing, wounded, and badly maimed horses and men there, such that you and your beleaguered group are able to catch up with the rear train of your camp who had fled to the Fire Peak Mountains, allowing your brother to skirt the ridge and keep kiting sight of the enemy, which would now come into view for you guys, bringing up that rear and sealing off the southern passage out into the plains, and see the enemy's plan for what it was, as those forces you're leaving behind you reconcentrate or rendezvous with those you left in the Marmot Hollows and begin their climbing ascent and pursuit after your beleaguered column as it heads into the Fire Peaks. You cannot hear them, though you see Büsgüi and Khan Naican below, no doubt uttering their oaths that they will find you in those forlorn hills and feed you to the crows there. We'll have to find out about that. Who knows when, 2-3 months from now when we have the next session of Hordelands. But unfortunately, this is where we'll have to end this session. So take note of your current resources and health points and arrows and such, and we'll take this up exactly where it left off whenever next time happens.
Excellent. Thanks for watching.